My name is Paul Hughes. You might have seen me on the news. I'm the governor of the hummingbird operation. I just won an award. Best IO I scored for a job well done, and now I'm up for promotion. She was clinical, I'll give her that. She hid hand over notes inside the cat. We had to dig up her pansies and check each drain and gutter. She was clinical right off the bat. Kept vials of insulin under her hat. Never saw them myself, but I knew we had a nutter. Thank God for Dr. Evans. He was surely sent from heaven. He made sense of all the notes when we were stuck. Brary did the do with his thematical review and told us where to look when we knew fuck. And we never looked at just one person, and we never looked at just one thing, though that's exactly what we did, but nobody's our star kid. A ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Though I don't know a level 1 from a book of pie or a UVC from a Portaloo, I just know that she was clinical, and I hope that you now know that too. They told me the unexpected never ever appends, and the unexplained don't either. Who am I to use me brain when there's no other folk to mither? I had a cracking team, they all wanted a stab at decoding her diary while eating a kebab. We nicked her counseling notes, we hid them in our coats. Sometimes you just gotta go that extra mile. Now she's banged up good and proper, and I'm a copper's fucking copper. Fuck McDonald, she'll be in there for a while. Oh, my name is Paul Hughes. Long words make me confused. We're looking for death in many other places. We're going back in time, from the LWH to the scene of the crime. We'll shut down the debate if the CPS will let us. We've had to drop old Dewey, he's gone a trifle screwy in interviews as though he's Richard Burton. These twats on YouTube and Twitter won't put my career in the shitter.
Ghouls and Misfits return.
Lord of that I'm certain.
Let's see you tonight, guys. Great to see you down there.
I'll say that much. That Richard Gill ain't even Dutch, and we'll nab him too if he gets to flipping cocky. She was clinical with a capital C. Ain't no way she's gonna be free, cause we're the Cheshire Massive Constabulary, coming at you like a pound shop Rocky. Clinical, let's get into clinical. Spats a million up the wall. Clinical, let's get into clinical. It's not our cash, so we don't care at all. Fuck the truth and fuck being fair. We made a murderer straight out of thin air. Don't think to piss on the hummingbird's nest.
Sing it.
I won't tell you twice, cause I'm not always nice. Who cares if she's innocent? That's not my concern. It's a job well done. Stuff it up your bum. We found the witch and then we made her.
Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing that. I'm stopping sharing that. Have I done that right? That's a new thing I did, which I've never done before. Dan is in the house. I'm going to add Dan to the stage now. Welcome, everybody, to this kind of impromptu live. A few people made some comments about the possibility of doing one because of the developments that have happened over the last couple of days. So how come Dan isn't on the stage then? How do I add Dan? I just tried to add Dan. Why isn't that working? It says remove. Are you there? Oh, you are. Oh, you're there. Fantastic. Dan, can you hear me? Can you hear us?
I can hear you, Mark.
Wonderful. I can hear you. Technology is amazing.
Isn't that amazing? I don't
Yeah,
know
sorry.
quite how I'm connected. I'm just trying to make a comment, but I can't see you.
Oh, you can't.
Can you see me?
Absolutely, can see you very clear. Hello, everybody in the
That's
chat.
brilliant.
I noticed you've got the
Well,
guitar there. Any chance of a song?
I've got my guitar. I've got my
Oh,
guitar.
marvelous, marvelous.
I can't see you, but I'm not sure that matters terribly, really.
No, we can absolutely see you. We're going to bring. I'll just mention to Jenny, and Dan. Device is not connected at the moment, so I'll bring you on once the devices are connected, Jenny.
Hi, Jenny, if you're there.
And hi, Tom. Hi, Samantha.
Tom.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Truthful Out. Hi, Topsy Turvy. Next Realm. Chariots of Fire. Georgia. Claire. Zoe. I'm going to miss people out. Amber. Everyone that here. Asymmetry. You know, everyone that's here. Little Unicorn, of course, came in very early, and we had a chat about tea and everything. What's the best type of tea you can get? Just as an entree. But brilliant. Thanks, Dan. You're fantastic. You're here.
No, I'm feeling really positive today. So happy that I'm very happy to try this technology and communicate with you for the first time. It's lovely to be here, and we're on the Consortium of Misfits channel. Is that right?
No, we're on my channel. It's going to there. I think I could. You have to kind of upscale the. Sorry, I might be shouting. You have to kind of upscale the. Am I shouting? Am I speaking too loud?
No, you're actually not shouting at all. I'm probably shouting.
No, you're not. You're not shouting. You can shout if you want as well. But what I was going to say was, I think you can send the video to multiple outlets, as it were, but you have to do the paid version of StreamYard, and I'm not on that as yet.
Right, you are.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I can see some comments coming through, so it's nice to see everybody here.
Oh, that's marvelous.
You must be feeling very positive about the news that came out in the Sun today. Everybody seems to be very happy with that, because it's quite unequivocal, really, isn't it?
It really is, Dan. I am, and as somebody said, and who was it? I think it might have been. I have to scroll back here, but whoever said it right at the beginning was, it's like your mind's reeling with this stuff because it's coming at such a pace now. The momentum is building, and we've got all these things coming up, and this is what we may get into in the stream about the Netflix thing. What's the other thing?
I don't know whether to watch it now. I felt so positive today. I thought, I could even watch that. But really, I'm very much, I think, like you all along, I feel that images are very powerful things. And it really shocks me to see trailers. I didn't watch The Conviction because I felt that it was sensation. This is even worse. I mean, this is a real invasion of someone's privacy. And it's really shocking. But whether one should look at things that are shocking and look at them in the eye, as it were, and then process. But I may not watch it, to be honest. I may just hide behind the sofa and let other people decide whether it's gone in Lucy's favour or whether it just cannot be in someone's favour to be so humiliated like that. And obviously during the trial, she was asked, do you want to see the footage of yourself being arrested? And she said no several times. And that was part of that very humiliating moment during the trial when they felt so triumphant. But, that's what's really come out. And I don't know, are you going to watch it?
I'm not sure. I'm just going to welcome Tony, isn't it, and Simone to the screen here as well. I'm not sure if we can hear. Oh, you're there. Fantastic. Lovely to have you here, and lovely to have everybody in the chat. As to your question there, Dan, I'm not sure. I didn't watch the trailer, but listening to all the comments about it, I feel as though I have imaginatively, and that's kind of enough for me. It's a kind of a horror thing, what they did, isn't it? And so how do you feel about that, Tony, with regard to the Netflix aspect at the moment? I think the mic, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tony. I think the mic's not coming through for some reason. I'm just going to do. Oh, that sounds good. That's sounding good.
Yeah. Sorry, I kind of. I think I got the gist of your question about the Netflix series coming out. Which one?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, crikey. To be honest,
That's right. No worries.
I've is that not the Channel 4 thing? That's different, isn't it? Again,
It's the Netflix that the police have been involved in, where they're showing the extra body cam footage and the arrest footage. I believe Father Gibbs is involved, and a whole cast of ghouls, really, characters. You know.
Oh yeah. Well, it's unbelievable, isn't it? It's just not ethical at all, is it? To show that amount of footage about an individual. I mean, it's just disgraceful. I just can't understand how they're getting away with actually using that kind of information. It's just unbelievable. It beggars belief, doesn't it, how we've allowed it to happen. Nobody seems to be able to stop these things either, which is more worrying. They just seem to do what they want, use that footage. I mean, the way they kept showing, being interviewed, if I'm right, when they first, that bit of footage they're using as well, she wasn't actually under caution when they were interviewed. She went of her own volition and gave willingly what they wanted to hear. And then they used that against her later on in the trial, which is even more despicable. And the other thing is, they're showing selective bits, which to me, if they're going to show any, they should let the public see everything then, because I'm pretty sure that we would see the confirmation bias going on in a great way in all those interviews. Bear in mind, the girl who did it, she was the liaison officer for those families, and then she was interviewing her, which is just incredulous in itself, isn't it? I mean, I like to say I've been a little bit out of the loop a little bit with work, but suppose be keeping post, but it doesn't take long for me to get back on my sort of high horse.
No, absolutely. I feel very much the same. It really does. I don't know. I just want to welcome Matt's staff to the screen here. Hello, Matt. Thanks for coming on.
Hi,
as
Matt.
well.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Yeah, nice to see you. I don't know whether you want to. Would you like to have a go at the song now at this point, Dan? Would that be all right?
Frank, I thought you were asking me.
What are we doing?
Were you gonna do a song, Dan?
I was playing along. I was playing along to your song that was coming. Was just before you screened. There was a song. It was a nice song about. It was playable. I don't know whether it was singable. Some of the stuff Jabe's done has been interesting, because I'll always, any song, I'll sit down at the piano, see if it works, or pick up the guitar. And actually, the one that I really like, which we could sing at some point, I think it's sort of. Where are your doubts, Dr. Gibbs?
Yeah.
You supported the prosecution narrative. No one saw her do any bad act, 'cause she's innocent. That's a fact. I think that's definitely a song there.
Yes, it very much is. That's brilliant. Thanks so much for that. And so Matt.
No,
Matt,
I was just gonna.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, please. Sorry, Dan.
I was going to just say, I noticed somebody in the comments, maybe it was Samantha, saying Goss might be retiring. So I can see the sort of group of people responsible for the miscarriage of justice sort of gradually dispersing into the mist. Obviously, Evans will be retired, and it's really going to leave the spotlight on Hughes, who's relatively young. So it's going to be interesting to see how he sort of faces the music in the coming months as an individual. And I also noticed a couple of other people commenting that they wouldn't be watching the Netflix documentary. So what about you, Mark?
I don't think I will do, but I'll follow what the responses are about it. Just to talk a little bit about Goss. Apparently he retired, and he had a bit of a shindig about that and was complimented on the 28th. So, and other people have mentioned, I can't remember everyone's names who's made comments about it, but they very helpfully said that he retired certainly a couple of years before he would have had to have retired, maybe about 2 years or so. So is it coincidental? Is it like that correlation causation thing, or is it a signifier of things to come? His and some other people have mentioned as well. I'm sorry, I can't remember who it is exactly all the time because my head's buzzing a bit. But it's the idea that does it allow the Court of Appeal to criticise a retired judge more than one who's still in place? I don't know what all of you think in the chat and on the screen here about that. Any thoughts?
Well, I'd have thought it would make it much easier to criticise him. You know, he won't be suffering reputational damage, and he can just retire to his country club and, you know, not face any consequences, really.
Yes, I thought something similar. Can I just ask Matt, because I don't think we've spoken before, or we might have done in comments, but how are you feeling about things at the moment? How it's going?
Yes, I've not used StreamYard before, so I just clicked through the link, Mark. I actually, believe it or not, said hello to you outside the Thirlwall inquiry when the protest was. So we have briefly met in person.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it was you were stood alone at the time, and it was freezing cold. So I said hello, and I made the mistake of going into the Thirlwall inquiry, and I ended up staying for a few hours. And by the time I left, the protest, because it was so cold, everyone had left and disappeared. So we briefly met, but it was for 2 seconds.
Right, well, really good to see you again then in that case. And yeah, we decamped to the Weatherspoons, and then events occurred there. And
yeah, so I've heard.
Yeah, but so you went into Thirlwall inquiry on that particular day, did you? Was that the first time you'd actually gone?
I went for 3 days summary, and to the best, I think that was the first day. I came back the following day, and then the final day I didn't know it was going to be live streamed, so I wouldn't have attended if I'd known. But I think they streamed it on iPlayer, so it's a bit of a wasted trip, to be honest, and it got postponed until the afternoon session. But I was there for what amounted to 2.5 days and didn't get a huge amount from it, but I do like to experience these things in person just to get a feel for it.
Absolutely, Matt. I think I remember rightly that Carl according to Carl in the UK, did also attend some of the Thirlwall inquiry. I don't know if did Dan and Tony, did you ever attend any of it, or Simone as well? Attend any of these?
No, I can tell you on the final day summary, I counted 15 people in the public gallery, but 8 of them worked there. So there was only myself and another 6 other members of the public that I counted that were in the public gallery. And I think that's because it was delayed, and they announced late the night before that it was going to be on iPlayer. And if I'd known that, I wouldn't have gone either. So it was pretty quiet when it came to the summary.
Gosh.
I kind of kept myself to myself. I did recognise a couple of the journalists, including Judith Moritz. It's quite funny, actually. I very nearly, when Thirlwall was summing up, what she said at the end was, she said, "Has anyone got any questions?" And I almost put my hand up and said, I was going to say, well, what if she's innocent? What I didn't realise was that members of the public aren't allowed to engage, because I'm naive to all of this stuff. But I don't know whether I would have got in trouble or whether it would have been funny, but that was genuinely going to be my question. What if this is all a waste of time?
Yeah, and it's the most.
I don't like attention, so I'm quite glad I didn't. But it would have been quite funny.
It would have been, and it's the most pertinent question, really, because it's been done on a false premise. But obviously, as Lady Thirlwall, knitting on top of the shard, as Professor Hutton described her, it would have been just perhaps another bit of noise that she heard that she couldn't decipher. But nonetheless, it would have been the most relevant question that anybody would have asked there, really. But
well, that genuinely was my question, but I wasn't comfortable asking something in front of a very sort of officious looking environment like that. But I genuinely didn't realise. I googled it when I got home that the public can't ask questions. So yeah, I'm glad I didn't, in that sense.
Oh, That's extraordinary, isn't it?
Sounds
I mean,
about right for a public inquiry.
sorry, I missed that, Tony. Can you say that again, please?
I was just being a bit facetious. It sounds about right for a public inquiry, doesn't it? The public can't ask questions.
We're the last people they want to hear from, really, I would say, probably. And indeed, the last people they want to explain things to, you know. So I've got a few tabs up here. So there's so much has been happening, hasn't there? And this fallout between Dr. Evans, Dewey Evans, and the police now, which has been made very explicit in this latest Sun article, is extraordinary. I wonder what you all think about that, and in the chat as well, please.
Yeah, it was interesting. Last year, Richard Gill appeared in a Sun article, and it was a bit, you know, for him to appear in the article, he must have thought it was a positive move. And he did mention that he thought that the editor thought Lucy was innocent. But and also when we did our birthday thing, which I was talking to Mervyn about when we met in Liverpool. And by the way, everything I know about the Thirlwell inquiry comes from Mervyn's work, which has been superb. I know he's in the chat, so I want to thank him for, you know, doing all that painstaking work, reading through the documents, which I wouldn't be able to do, and then condensing it and letting us know. But the Sun, when they reported on our birthday thing, they actually, although there was a lot of, there was fury was a word in the headline, but the actual article was quite well written, and they put in extra photos, and it was fair. And that was exactly a year ago. I sort of thought, oh, the sun's kind of coming out. But it's taken a full year for that to actually realize itself, and they you know, it's such a slow process. But you'd have thought that the other newspapers will follow gradually. But, you know, some of the tactics that the Mirror, I think, use are just shocking. You know, they'll start an article with Lucy Letby's barrister, Mark MacDonald, says he knows that she is guilty. You know, that's the way they'll start an article. So there's still a bit of turning around to go in the gutter press. But, you know, for the Sun to do this is remarkable, I think. So that's why I'm very happy. And I see Mervyn and a few others, Douglas, say they are going to watch the Netflix documentary. So that's probably where I'll get my info from. Sorry, I'm rambling. No,
I muted myself. No, not at all. It's fantastic to hear that. And yourself, Tony and Matt, in any order, what do you feel about this? What's been going on of late?
Yeah, well, it's just like saying, but there's a real sense of optimism now, isn't there? So many things happening quickly as well. So yeah, Goss going now. I think that's so good. It's just a good sign, isn't it? That it's going to either be a retrial or some exoneration, and he will, once he's gone, as you say. I think Matt said, you know, it'll just mean that they can blame him, and he'll just take it on the chin. Yeah. I mean, he ignored Jackson, didn't he? Ignored lots of things in the trial. He wouldn't let Shu Lee's stuff in. He's just a terrible judge, wasn't he? I think he's presided over similar cases before, hasn't he? Where he's been seen to be not exactly bad. No, it's good. I'm surprised what people said about the Channel 4. Why can't you watch it, Mike? Just because you're just so incensed. I think
this is the Netflix, which some other people have said like it's connected to ITV or ITN in some way as well as part of the deal. But I think it's just what it is it's just. I mean, I could make myself watch it, but I don't want to see. I've got it. I've understood how they've behaved. I understand it. I can see it. I think, I might just lose it. I might just lose it. And, you know, at some level, I just think it's like watching a kind of a torture scene, actually, in a way. But having said that, I think it's important that people do watch it and then can help us, like a bit like what Dan said earlier. You know, we can we can all understand what it's about, and other people's. And I don't know what you think about this, Matt, to bring you in. Do you think some of these things they're trying to do, it's going to bite them back, really? So the police, if they are behind this, could it work against them, really? You know.
The police obviously believe they are still in the right, despite all the evidence that has come forward against that. Whether that's to save their own skin because they've got so much skin in the game now that they can't back down from their position. They're also the police of now are not the police of 30, 40 years ago, like so many of our institutions. I mean, a lot of these people, when I hear them speak, I don't think they're of particular strong caliber. And could it just be they're the last to the party? I mean, I believe Dowie Evans in the documentary when he said he hadn't seen the Shuley conference before, and I think what went maybe unnoticed was when he was shown the Shuley conference and he sort of bit his lip or he made a funny face or something. I think that was his realization at that point that John Sweeney had gone against him. I don't think it was anything to do with Shuley, because he heard the question. And I don't know if you picked up on this previously, but when he was interviewed on John Sweeney's podcast, he said how much respect he had for John Sweeney's previous work.
Ah, interesting.
And I think the reason he made that, I believe him when he said that was the first time he'd seen the conference. I believe that he wasn't reacting at all to Shuley's answers. I think he thought, John Sweeney's turned on me.
A sense of betrayal, sort of thing.
A sense of betrayal, yeah. That's right, because he did a full interview for the podcast. Obviously, yes. Like everything, like all these statements he puts out, he believes he's in the right, and it's tinged with self-promotion. But I don't think he will. I think his arrogance will have thought that John Sweeney wasn't going to then tip towards the other side, so to speak. That's just personal opinion, and he has obviously still been guiding the police. And I doubt, from my experience of dealing with the police, that they would have people of caliber to dispute anything that's raised. That's my personal opinion.
Yes, yeah, and I can well go with that, actually. And I mean, they've really made it explicit now how they've fallen out, and there seems to be a source probably within the police that are letting journalists know that the police are, quote unquote, begging. This is what they say in the Sun now, the latest article. They're begging him to shut up, really. It's too late because the toothpaste is out of the tube, isn't it? I mean, they should have been begging
Correct.
him
Yeah.
years ago, really. It's too late. And he's kind of whining a bit now, Dowie Evans, and he's saying things like, well, all I did was give evidence and they're all blaming me now. It's falling apart in real time, isn't it?
Well, he's going to be the fall guy. Make no mistake about it. Dowie Evans will be the fall guy. It's just a case of who comes down with him. I mean, do we have the ability in this country to evaluate all of our institutions and do something as a result? I mean, I've not really seen it in my lifetime. It's not to say it can't happen, and I'm sure there will be changes, but we're much better at, covering things up.
Yes, indeed. What are your feelings about that, Tony and Dan and Simone?
I was just going to ask what people felt about the timescale, because Anna Doherty in her last podcast seemed to imply that the Thirlwell inquiry conclusion wouldn't have any bearing on the timing of the CCRC decision, which I thought was a bit odd, because in a sense Thirlwell has delayed her conclusion in order for things to develop, and one thing that might develop is a CCRC referral. And when she originally decided that not January, but after Easter. I thought, well, then before Easter, the CCRC might well, if they're acting in unison with Thirlwall, make a referral and then allow Thirlwall to either indefinitely postpone her conclusion or come to a very different conclusion. You know, the conclusion that was being laid out on the day that we were having our demonstration, which was that there were no murders and that the managers were not culpable in any way. And she's taken all that in, and that's a potential conclusion. But Anna seemed to be implying that this is a much longer process. Chris seemed to imply from his, whether he's had conversations at the Manchester meeting, that it'll be years before Lucy comes out of prison. I feel, I'm not sure I entirely accept that, because public pressure can be put on these institutions to act quicker. So I'm hoping that there might be a referral by the CCRC before Easter, but other people might think that's very optimistic.
How do you feel about that, Tony, about the terms of potential for referrals in the offing? You know?
I don't know. That's the thing. You hear so many thoughts on that. It seems that they can, if they want to, bring things forward, but on this, they seem to be dragging it out. As you say, I must admit, I'm not up to speed. What's the story with the Thirlwall inquiry? When is the final date for that one? Was it due to be out? Are you suggesting that they're actually holding back until somebody comes from the CCR or vice versa? Yeah, I'm not. Is
that something you want to answer, to clarify that, Dan, about the staging that it's been, because it's been delayed twice now, isn't it? This is the second delay.
Well, the last I heard was that they are intending to publish the conclusion of the inquiry after Easter. But if there are developments before then, I can imagine that they might defer again. But somebody else who's more expert would be able to answer that.
I'm struck by this sort of chicken and egg situation, in which, is it Thirlwall that's somehow locking the CCRC into a situation of stasis, or is it the fact that the CCRC's apparent stasis, for whatever reason, because they've had that application for over a year now, or about a year, is that what's stopping Thirlwall? They're kind of conditional upon each other, so it's a not situation. That's how I see it. But to be honest with you, being a bit of a tinfoil kind of merchant, I see it as that there are discussions at higher levels of power trying to figure out how to minimize the deleterious effects of this coming out as a miscarriage of justice on the whole of the establishment. So, but there we are.
I know I'm not very in-depth answer for me. I know I don't. Yeah, they just seem to do what they want, though. The CCRC, that it's just I still can't get over how it went the last time it went to the Court of Appeal again. Anyway, they just came back. There were errors in what they were saying, and nothing really gets done about that. And they don't go back and revisit. It's like, oh, we made an error, and that's how it's going to stay. That's
right. They seem to. Well, they don't seem to. Fundamentally, they're not accountable, are they? They don't seem to be accountable, which is a worry.
I don't know. Just hope it does go back. What I can't understand is how on earth would she ever get a fair trial, even if they said let's have a retrial? It'd be almost near impossible, wouldn't it? I mean, there's so much stuff about her on the net, in the papers. Would they ever get a jury that wasn't biased in some way anyway? So that leads me to think, personally, I think she will just be exonerated. A bit like, I think it happened with the Birmingham 6, didn't it? Didn't it go back twice to the Courts of Appeal, and twice it went back? Then eventually they just let them out and said, no, it's just too unsafe, you're out, and that's the end of it. I forget if it was the Birmingham 6 or the Guildford. Well, I can't remember which. It was me.
I think that's right. So, I mean, this has come up as a kind of a perennial discussion area about whether it is possible to have a trial at all, whether the prosecution would even attempt to mount a trial, in terms of who are they going to bring against the 26 plus world-class experts that the defence have now got. So can I bring in Dan and Matt about that, in terms of what are your feelings? Because I don't think we've discussed it directly. Is it possible to even have another trial about this miscarriage, you know?
Well, not if they want to save money, which is what they seem to want to be doing all the time. You know, if Evans is isolated as the kind of cause of the miscarriage of justice, it will be impossible not to blame Goss for not excluding his evidence as inadmissible. But at the end of the day, there are various other people in the trust, the NHS trust, the board, who are above Chambers and so on, who haven't been named, or really that they're also people who are in the line of fire. I don't know whether anyone's investigated exactly who was the chain of command going from Lucy up to the health secretary. And the health secretary was in charge of the whole system. There'll be people below him, but he said that he thinks it was a miscarriage of justice. So what do the people who were below him at the time say? I don't know who those people are, but or whether it's a problem to name them or find out who's responsible initially for the whole investigation getting going in the first place. Sorry, I've lost the thread. What was the question, Mark?
No, that's absolutely great. And just before Matt comes in, if Matt wants to come in about this, is that what you were saying there? I'd just like to. There's been this 150-page. It's being called a leak. Now, what the source is, we don't exactly know. But in that part of that leak, you're seeing a lot of pressure being put on the Countess of Chester Hospital by very high up personnel in NHS England, saying, look, you need to get the police in now. And there's a lot of back and forth from COCH managers, Chambers and Ian Harvey, saying, look, no, we're trying to work this through. And they're saying, well, when are you going to get the police in? So just in light of what you just asked there, Dan, I think we are aware of some of the names at the top of the NHS that were pushing, as far as I can see anyway, which were pressurizing that trust to turn it over to the police rather than find some other way. That's how I'm reading it. Anyway, sorry, Matt, if you'd like to come in there.
No, it's fine. There's not a great deal I can add other than to say Mark MacDonald seems quite adamant that in the event she's exonerated, it will go straight to retrial. I was very surprised when he said that. I personally, for a few reasons, including the financial reason, but the main reason is if these institutions want to get rid of this as soon as possible, I think she'll be exonerated and it will never go back to trial. And they will then start looking for fall guy or fall guys. Dowie Evans is an obvious one, but then you have others. I don't think Goss will be. I think it's easy to criticize someone once they're out of the institution. They don't have to be as cutting. They can just refer to him and say, well, the previous judge we believe made this mistake or that mistake, and it's easy once they're out the system. So it kind of, I wasn't surprised at all when he took retirement. The only thing I would be surprised is that if the doctors haven't taken retirement, the consultants haven't taken retirement. I don't know what their status is. I believe they're still working. Whether that's on gardening leave or not, I don't actually know.
Didn't the police? Aren't they investigating some of them anyway for? I think it's corporate. I don't want to say manslaughter. I don't think it is at this stage, but I think they're looking at their corporate neglect.
Corporate negligence, isn't it?
Yeah. Is that what it was?
I think it's corporate.
But we don't know.
Corporate negligence, yeah.
Yes, but which ones was it? Nobody knows.
It's I believe it's the management team. Mark will know better.
Yeah.
There's a separate operation going on. They're calling Operation Duet. And I believe there's two sections to that. Now, one is, which we've heard the least about, is the idea of corporate manslaughter or gross negligence manslaughter. Well, sorry, corporate manslaughter from the trust level, as a trust, as a body. And then the gross negligence manslaughter has been 3 managers were arrested on that basis. I think that was not the charge, but the terms for the reasons they were arrested under that, because they haven't been charged. And this was about a year ago. And it certainly would be Tony Chambers, Ian Harvey, plus one of the other managers. Now, people have put various names through, but I've not heard any formal confirmation. Well, there's been no formal confirmation of any of the names, actually, but it's obvious it would include Tony Chambers and Ian Harvey as the CEO and the medical director, respectively, you know. Yeah. I don't know whether, Dan, if you've heard any more about that in terms of the management.
I'm afraid I'm not very well informed, Mark. If there's anybody else like Mervyn who wants to get on, if you need to create a space, I can step aside. But no. Well, I was just going to say, someone in the comments says that Mark MacDonald is saying that there ought to be a retrial because that's what he ought to say, and that doesn't necessarily mean he's not hoping for a quashing and an exoneration by the Court of Appeal. But it may be tactically the right thing for him to say that there should be a retrial. And it seems to be that David Davis has done the same thing. And, you know, my experience was, you know, we went to Birmingham and we did some singing and it was great fun. But we had to take the footage down because it transpired at the meeting in Manchester, and Mark said it in his speech, Mark MacDonald, he said the campaigners and the experts have to really keep apart. So I think there's a whole technical legal side where people are doing expert witness work, and then there's the kind of campaign side. And sorry, I thought we were on the consortium of misfits, you know, and we were going to have a little jam or something, but you know, I love talking about the case as well. I think all we can do as members of the public is just say who we are, you know, our names. Recently on the consortium, one of our consortium members, Deborah Blythe, sang a song for Lucy, beautiful lyrics. And, you know, that was I hope you agree, a sort of amazing piece of leadership, really, by Deborah, to do that.
Very much so.
In a way, it acts as an online protest if you just say your name and here I am, and your name and your face and your voice, and that's all you need to do. And I'm hopeful that public pressure can sort of snowball and escalate, and that we can get a much quicker result. That's what I'm hopeful.
Yes.
Yeah, just going back to if she was to be released and they would just say, oh, it's an unfair conviction, and that's what they often do, because then they go away with a little bit less egg on their chin than they would if they said she's completely innocent. But if it went back to a retrial, that would be better in a way that she would be completely exonerated then and be a free woman. But if they just let her out and say, oh, it's an unfair conviction, for her to then clear her name, she would have to literally go back herself and pay for her own retrial to get her name exonerated and say she's completely innocent. And there's a big difference in a way, because if they just let her out and say, oh, it's an unfair conviction, there'll always be the question mark for some people, not for us, obviously, but some will. And do you see my point?
Yes.
In a way, a retrial would be much better for her. And
I don't know, but it didn't. In the case of Lucia de Berg in Holland, they made a big thing of exonerating her, and senior political figures sort of invited her to a sort of formal pardon. And there are other ways other than technically having a retrial. And if there's a kind of resounding quashing of the convictions by the appeal court, you would have thought that might be enough. But we also know that there are some people, possibly even on the screen right now, who never give up. You know, they're never going to give up the idea that, oh, well, she must have done something. And so she has that for the rest of her life, unfortunately. There's nothing that can be done. Not even a retrial is going to get rid of that sort of cloud that hangs over you when you've been accused in this way.
Yeah, fair comment. Yeah.
Yes, Matt, do you have anything to add about that aspect of it? About what, where would Lucy Letby be, even post exoneration, or whether it's through a pure exoneration process, just cancelling the quashing the verdicts, quashing the convictions, or through a trial process, you know?
The system will do whatever it can do to limit its damage at this stage. I don't know her personally, but if I was in that situation, I would want nothing to do with courtrooms or anything like that. Having spent so much time in them, regardless of whether it was to clear my name or not. But what is clearing your name anyway? She's not going to be able to work within the healthcare system in England anyway. So other than restrictions of travel and things like that, I don't think it matters. She's not going to, despite probably wanting to work, she's not going to have to. People are talking about compensation schemes and things like that. She could sell her story for millions. I'm not saying she'd want to at all. I'm not saying that will be her motivation, but she's not going to have financial. She'll be better off financially because of this. And again, that's not a good thing, because I'm sure the psychological damage isn't worth any amount of money. But she's not going to have to work, and that would probably be the motive. I don't know. It's a tricky one. I mean, it is, from what I know, she's probably going to want to spend time close to her parents.
Yeah.
From what I know, if it was me, I'd jump on a plane and go and live in Dubai. You know?
Yeah, no, I get it.
If it was me, I wouldn't be a nurse. Yeah. So.
Yes, and her parents, I think her father is coming up to 80. He's the Ducking Stool channel, wonderful channel, did a short video about how her parents have been treated online still to this day, how the cruelty of that has been pushed their way as well, and that they're obviously suffering in a way that is just hard to imagine, really, to have their only child, what has been done to her, the persecution. And they've been in that world for 10 years as well as Lucy has, haven't they? So pretty much now 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awful. It's one of the awful part, and the health ramifications and things like that to her parents are things that we'll never know, because you're not in their body. You don't know how they're feeling. You know, like you say, her father's an elderly man, and he still might not see her released. I don't know what his health is like, but I think that's one of the worst aspects of it, to be honest.
It is. It absolutely is. I pressed the wrong button. I mean, this idea.
Just on that point, Mark.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, somebody did comment that she might have to go through a retrial to get the full compensation that she's entitled to, and I don't know what I think about, you know, how selling her story, or whether we can be so sure that you know, that she's going to make a lot of money as a result. But she might have to go through the process in order to get the compensation. That might be just the reality of it. Sorry, I was just to finish that
really
point.
Sorry, no, that's really helpful, Dan. Thank you. And it brings to mind the case of Barry George, who spent 8 years in prison. He was the conviction was quashed as an unsafe conviction. He's not to this day had a penny of compensation, and the justification is that, oh well, the trial was still fair, and it was reasonable for the jury to come to those conclusions based on that trial. So that's the kind of system we're dealing with. It's and you also got that other aspect. I don't know if this is being fought as we speak, is the idea that they even take out money for board and lodgings, you know, out of the compensation, which is a hideous kind of turn of the screw, really, from the powers that be, isn't it? I think
it's unreal, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sadistic and weird, but that's what we're dealing with. I feel a bunch of. Anyway, I won't start ranting. I'm in a different mode when I'm trying to do this, because I know I won't stop. But no, it's just Oh yeah, somebody said, I'm sorry I'm not catching up with all the comments, which are brilliant, and they'll all come up after, when everything's been done on the live afterwards. It'll all be there in the not necessarily on the screen, but they'll be on the side. This is something that Chris Morris, Cheryl saying here, Chris Morris has said he would offer to be a ghostwriter for her story and to let her have the proceeds. So, I mean, I want to mention something about Lucia de Berg and something that Matt said a few minutes ago, the psychological impact of this torture, really, and kidnapping by the state, which is how I look at it anyway, is that Lucia de Berg, and Richard Gill has spoken about this, because Lucia de Berg sadly died not that long ago at no great age, and he goes back to the point where Lucia de Berg had a stroke in prison, and many people felt that it was due to the stress, and she was also not given medical treatment there in a timely fashion. And so it's the idea that the physical impact on people for going through, I mean, I think I can't imagine what it would be like. I think I don't know how I would survive it, you know, even up to the point of being charged. I can't imagine surviving what Lucy Letby has gone through. I can't.
Yeah, well, it was quite harrowing, the description, you know, that Mark MacDonald gave in his speech, where he said, you know, that these photos we see all the time, you know, the images that are put up on the, you know, that's someone in the past, you know, that's a different person completely. It's not the Lucy Letby of today. And it's one of the reasons I think I'd be inclined never to show those photos at all, you know, if you possibly can help it. Because we're sort of not living the true reality of the moment, which is very affected, and every year that she spends extra in prison is going to make her health worse, and why it's urgent that we sort of act as quickly as possible. So I'm hoping at some point this year that Evelyn and the PDC will call us out again, and we can all protest somewhere, whether it's a sort of a shouty protest or more like a kind of cultural event which is more social, and we sort of all meet and show our opposition to the continued wait. It'd be really good if we could get more people, because obviously when we were in Birmingham, it was fewer than Liverpool, but it actually had the same spirit. Wonderful speeches, really sort of feeling of camaraderie, and it's really, really nice to meet people like I met you, Mark, in Liverpool. Yes. And it's really nice to actually physically meet people who you've been engaged with. And you know, if there is an event, I don't know where it would be, and people might have ideas of where a good place for us all to meet. Sometime in the spring or early summer, that would be a really good thing to aim for. And that would be sort of something that I'm planning on attending if it happens.
Yeah, that's great. That's great, Dan. And did you say a bit earlier, Dan, that, because I watched the video of the Birmingham meetup there, did you say it had to be taken down, or it was taken down? I can't remember why that was taken down.
You know, I'm not going to name a name, but we basically, somebody who's representing Lucy Letby for Mark MacDonald's team as an expert witness attended the demo, and it was considered not right for an expert witness to be demonstrating. And I don't see that, because I think bias is a material thing. You're biased if you're going to make some money out of a particular outcome, or if you're a friend of the person. So if you're a friend of the Letby family, you might be biased in their favour. But for the rest of us, there's no material interest in dragging ourselves off to Birmingham city centre and doing some chanting. So I don't think it's biased at all for that person to be there. But obviously there are these technical rules, and the way things are done have to be done a certain way. And I completely appreciate that. And Evelyn said we better not show what it was we did. And I can tell you what we did. We sang, "Oh, why are we waiting? You're procrastinating," to the tune of "Oh, Come All Ye Faithful." It was done originally as a protest song in the 1960s in the States, anti-segregation. We should be integrating. And it really worked well, because everybody knows the tune. And I don't think any of us had actually sung the whole thing through. I don't know, if you're rude, you're sitting at the table, you say, oh, why are we waiting for the food? But we sang it. It really did feel good, but it was decided that it would not be right to show it. So we're not going to see it. We're not going to see it until it's too late. And the joke's a bit on me because I've been waiting to see the footage of Oh, Why Are We Waiting? But anyway,
Yes.
That's just to fill you in a little bit. I hope that answers the question. But
It does.
I think it's a little bit unfair. And when anybody who's on the campaign does something and then they get criticised and told that's the wrong thing to do, I feel sorry for them and my heart goes out to them. So I think it was
yes, because there isn't. Sorry, Dan. Sorry, I beg your pardon.
I finished.
Sorry, there isn't a blueprint for this, is there? And this is quite. I can't think of anything. There's so many aspects of this which seem unique. Other people have brought up. There's never been a quote unquote expert witness like Evans taking centre stage in the way he has, and just kind of courting public opinion, actually get out there fighting for it. He enjoyed it all at the beginning, but it's all turned on him now, as it should. So there are so many extraordinary aspects to this that I think it's hard. We're kind of learning as we go, in a sense, about what might be the right approach for things on this side of it, as it were, as opposed to the formal judicial side that Mark McDonnell and team are undertaking, isn't it?
Well, it's amazing what's been.
Go on, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say it's amazing what's been done online, and it may be that public protest is not the thing that people really want to do at the moment or feel is the right way to do things. And if that's true, I totally accept it. But I still think there is a place for doing a public protest. But really, all the work has been done online, and may it continue to be that way. Sorry.
No, not at all. No, that's great.
No, I was just going to say that in the same way that we are learning as we go along, it's perfectly possible that someone like Dowie Evans has been acting as an expert witness without fully understanding the rules himself, because he might not have been questioned prior to this. I know that sounds, if you're acting in a position, you should know that you have to be impartial and everything else. But if you've got away with something for so long, then until you come under scrutiny, he will have acted in a lot of cases where the same level of scrutiny wasn't applied, and maybe he's just got carried away. And I'm being generous, but maybe he's forgotten the rules as he's gone along. The other part of me thinks that maybe he was sort of courting the public as well. And JRM certainly, it would appear, has that sort of characteristic, just by the fact that he had time to be on TV but not to do ward rounds. Yeah. So you kind of get a feel for somebody's personality without wanting to judge somebody whom I've never met.
Of course, Mr. Evans, he only ever did family courts, didn't he, before this, really? So
correct.
On a different league as well, you know.
And he did get called. He has had adverse publicity on a couple of cases that I read about online. Yeah. There's a famous case of the girl whose name I can't recall. But
Bonnie Lewis.
That's the one. Bonnie Lewis. Yeah. Yes. But
when he said the mother had Munchausen's, and yeah.
But if he's never been, or rather, the maximum penalty that he's received was a judge saying, I don't think your evidence is admissible, it's worthless, then okay, well, I'll just carry on with the next case. I'm still getting paid. So that's he might not have realized until he sort of woven himself up in this mess what he was doing to himself, or he could have just been arrogance. I don't know. It's difficult.
I mean, if he'd be sitting on the fence a bit, as you say, he might not have realised that. Well, you know, it's up to the opposition to come up with some other experts. He didn't know there wasn't going to be any.
Correct.
In the comments here, Tom says, Mr. Apollo Tom has got a brilliant channel of that name. Tom Evans says, with the post office cases, they kept winning, so they took it as a precedent that they were right. Dewey Evans may see it similarly.
Right. Yes.
Evans, Joey Evans has been known to boast that he, quote unquote, won like a straight run of 40 cases. And I'm assuming the one where he was censured by the judge is the one that he didn't win, as it were, you know. But when he's talking like that, and this is what other expert witnesses have said, it's completely outside the very notion of being an expert witness to consider that you're winning a case. It's completely outside of his role. But that's him, basically, you know.
And what I'm saying is, has he just discarded the rules, or has he not been aware of them because he's been doing it so long and got away with it? He's just forgotten. I'm being generous, but has he just forgotten that they are the rules? I don't think we're ever going to know that.
The system, the way I see it, the system has been totally complicit in allowing him to be the renegade. Personally, I think he's a type of a psychopath, but has allowed him to get away with this and destroy many lives along the way. And there are a number of other cases that need to be re-looked at. It's not the only. It wasn't his first go. This with Lucy Letby. He's destroyed other families and lives before, and I'm hoping that every single case that he's involved in needs to be looked at in time. But he's not. I mean, we've also got the issue of the consultants themselves, without their persecution campaign, as well, certainly that's the way I look at it. Without their persecutory campaign, we wouldn't have ever got to an Evans, you know, really.
Something happened in that final meeting, because the police weren't interested, and then all of a sudden they were. And that's the key to all of this. Alongside the fact, I've seen a chain on a Facebook group today that was discussing, the consultants had a WhatsApp group for this, that they were discussing how to present the case to police. So if you combine that with that final meeting, that's everything. But whether any of that ever comes to light or not, you know, who knows? But if you can get to the bottom of those two things, then the rest of it is all self-explanatory.
Yes. Yeah. Tony, were you going to say
something? No, I'm in 100% agreement. Yeah, that's right. They said, yeah, they didn't cite Seven to the way they wrote to was to pique the interest of the police, I think is the word he used in his email. That
Correct.
Farewell inquiry, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
He absolutely did. This is Jairam you're talking about.
Yeah, and then there's been the other email, which is just unbelievable. If when he said he caught a, well, it was actually the prosecution acute Casey, wasn't it, who said, so you almost caught a red-handed. And he said it turned out she'd actually called him in the room. I mean, crikey, if anybody had been convicted of just that one case and that one email came out, you would be literally let out the next day. So how is it that she's still locked up? That's one case, clearly, that the evidence is completely flawed. It's just so frustrating. And then, yeah, anyway.
Yes, I think it's...
Before you look at the expert stuff from around the world, you know, it's incredible, isn't it? Just blatantly lied on the stand. Yeah,
he did lie, and my viewpoint is that all the other consultants that received that email are complicit in that lie. Yeah. Because they went on to see him, or perhaps it's very explicit in Steve Breary's WhatsApp group, which is referred to again in this 150-page leak document, that they all received that email from Dr. Jairam, and so they're all complicit in that perverting of the course of justice, which then leads into perjury on over 2 trials, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, gosh. Will any of them, Dan, how do you feel about this? Will anybody actually ever be brought to account? And if so, who do you think it might be? And do you think, or is that for later? Is
Well,
that
I
for
was
later?
listening to I was listening to Chris's interview with the lovely Lulu Mins. Is it? Have I got a surname right? And she was talking about the system not being an individual; it's a system. So it's very hard for it to recognise that it's got something wrong, and it's going to require a lot of individuals to really look at how things could be changed. I mean, my feeling is that there's a culture of compensation seeking from the NHS and an over-reliance on the NHS and when things go wrong. And so there's an army of people, and there must be more Evans and Bowens out there defending doctors. And, Evans always uses the language of we doctors. And he even said in court, we don't like to admit our mistakes, especially to the press. Openly saying, it's a system, we're all one, we're one body of doctors, and you need to protect us and put us on a pedestal. And that enables doctors to behave in a collegiate way and group together. And it happened in Bristol in the 1990s. My next door neighbour, her house has been bought as a result of having had an operation on her baby at the Bristol Royal Infirmary in the early 1990s. And what happened there was they were just botching their operations and not admitting it and grouping together to cover over each other's mistakes. And actually, it surprised me that that's not referred to more often when we're talking about what's happened at Chester, because there was an inquiry and a lot of public money was spent, and doesn't seem like lessons were learned, and the doctors were once again behaving in a collegiate way, but this time in a much more extreme fashion. Sorry, have I moved us away from the thread?
No, not at all. In light of that, Dan, are you that's surely the case, is it not, that where the anaesthetist Dr. Bolson was involved as a whistleblower? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
He was trying to blow the whistle.
Yeah.
In the end, I think he had to go to Australia and talk to the press in Australia, and then it became a big story, and only then did they admit that they had a much higher mortality rate than they should have done. And I've always thought Evans would have known all about that, because he was at Swansea at the time. And so if he'd ever had a very sick neonate, they would have been sent to Bristol Royal Infirmary, presumably. So he would have been aware that they had that there were bad outcomes.
Absolutely.
And, he obviously, he sees it as his role to defend doctors from criticism. It doesn't matter what they've done. Is his job, and that's where he's sort of operating in the system, and we have to look at the system that allows such adversarial tactics in these sort of medical cases. But I'm talking way out of my area of expertise. I'm sure there's people in the chat who know far more about this than I do.
Well,
it's nice to see Charles, by the way. My friend Charles is
Charles there. Hi, Charles. And
Charles.
Yeah, in a recent video, I put a link in the description to a video with Dr. Bolson in discussion about his experiences, and he was sacked. He was sacked from that trust. He was forced out, and then he was blacklisted by the whole of the NHS. And so him going to whether it was Australia, I couldn't remember if it was Australia or New Zealand, but he goes there because that's the only place that he can find employment, because the NHS don't want him, even though he's spoken out for patient safety in the same way that Dr. Martin Pittman has. And whether the blacklisting isn't going to be made explicit, but it's just real. It's just you can't get another job in the NHS. And that's what Dr. Bolson was pushed out, really, because he cared about the patients who were being killed by doctors who were doing operations that were beyond their skill level, if that was right, wasn't it, Dan? It was beyond their abilities to do it. The detail of that. Is Dan frozen? I think Dan might have frozen. Yeah, so there's that. There's a lot of Yeah, Dan's frozen there. What should we talk about? Any other points, Tony or
Mervyn just put on a
Yeah.
chat at the bottom that he said he requested sight of the WhatsApp messages at Thirlwall, but didn't get a response. So he doesn't know whether they were asked for or not.
Yes, that's interesting. Do either of you know, or anybody in the chat as well, know whether WhatsApp messages, do they disappear? Could you get them back from like 10 years ago now, from 2015, 2016?
There's always a way, but I don't know. I don't know for a fact, but I know if you want it badly enough, and it's online, you can get it.
Do something wrong.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
I've never used WhatsApp, but again, I keep referring to this this leaked document. They do refer very explicitly. I just Mervyn's comment here, but they refer very explicitly in that document that there is this WhatsApp group that they're talking about it as a back channel thing. So Mervyn is making it clear here that he did get the response, but the response was that they wouldn't answer. So it might be that they have got it. It's one of those, we're neither confirming nor denying kind of vibes, isn't it, really? I think that's what it is. I'm putting the link out again in case anybody else wants to join us as well. What else has been going on? Oh, there's Carl coming back in. Carl is here.
Hi.
Hello, Carl. From According to Carl in the UK. Welcome to the screen and the stream.
Well, hello everyone.
Hi. How you doing? You all right?
Not bad at all.
Good. Yeah. So, any thoughts about recent developments that have been coming pretty thick and fast, haven't they?
Yeah, there's been so many. I mean, I've made quite a lot of videos and I've not bothered uploading them because new things have come along and superseded what I was going to say. So it's all been really positive. I think it's great that, it's only, what are we, the 29th of January?
29th. Yeah, 29th.
And I think there's been so many new developments in the case in just 1 month that I can't see how they can really continue to pretend that this isn't a miscarriage of justice.
Yes, it's implausible for them to go on as though nothing's happening and you can't hear anything or see anything, isn't it? It's just, yeah, it's reached I think it's reached a critical point. I think there's more to go because I think the pressure's on now, and that's why we're seeing this fault line between Evans and the police, and it's coming out explicitly in the newspapers, even in the Sun.
Yeah. Hi Zoe, by the way. I saw the message from Zoe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just think the particularly the revelation, because I think we spoke about it in the last sort of live you did. We spoke about the Glasgow cases, in the Glasgow hospital, which bore a lot of similarity to the Countess of Chester, where babies were dying from infections caused by waste getting into the, or not necessarily babies, but children and adults were dying. We don't know the ages. I don't think. Were there any babies in Glasgow that died?
Well, there was a particular unit there that was dealing with like childhood cancers. So in some of the reporting, you hear that a child of like 8 or 9 very sadly died. You also get older people in their 20s and also people who are a lot older, like in their 60s and 70s, all linked to this hospital. Well, whether it's just the wastewater system or it's the water system as a totality, I think it probably is. It was the whole water system was dodgy there.
But it was the way the NHS went about covering it up for years. So, families had to fight really hard to get to the truth. And, this is very similar, except it's Lucy Letby and her defence team trying to get to the truth rather than the parents. Yes. I mean, the parents probably, they want the truth, but I think it's hard for them to deal with the constant shift in, the likely events, because it's just changed so much. They've been told, what they heard in court, what they've heard in Thirlwell, then what's come out with all the experts who've either done press conferences, gone to the media, and all sorts of things. There's just so much for them to deal with, and who you're going to trust, really. They're in that position.
That's right. Have you, any other comments about that, Matt and Tony, about this other hospital? Are you familiar with what's been going up on in Glasgow up there?
Yeah, interestingly, I think one of the consultants who used to work in the Council of Chester Hospital went to work in that hospital, which I thought was just a bit of a coincidence in itself. But
he brought the infection with him.
Yeah, and you've got this very specifically. I put the link out there to the Express article in respect of baby eye on the endotracheal tube. They found, and I have to practice it because it's a hard thing for me to say. They found Stenotrophomonas multifilia. So it's the very same thing that was found in Glasgow, where there's been an acknowledgement that the deaths were linked to such waterborne bacteria, has been found very specifically on one of the babies on the indictment, the endotracheal tube.
And I know I'm going over old ground a little bit, but I think it's important. I don't know if maybe anyone listening, maybe we haven't heard of some of these little things, but there was a point in the Council of Chester where the plumber, who was the only witness that Myers ever brought, which is another story, he said that he was tasked to fit 2 taps because they both had the same microbacteria on them, effectively, and he only had the money to change one of them, he said, which I find very strange. And what I find very strange about that guy is he wasn't really just the plumber. He ran the maintenance for that hospital, and it's a bit strange. He reckoned, now bear in mind, he said public money, and anybody who's worked in the public sector knows that everything you do has to be accounted for. Even every member of staff who works there has to account for every phone call they answer, or everything's, accounted for because it's public money. And he couldn't even provide any documentation to say the days he went onto that ward, amazingly.
Gosh.
I found that his whole thing very strange. The whole him being the only person to give any kind of credence to say that yes, he did go onto the ward and there were problems with the plumbings, but hey, I don't know what dates they were. I didn't keep a record of that, but I'm sorry, but everything is logged, isn't it? In maintenance, you ring up the maintenance man. I need someone to come to my department. He's got to log that. He can't seriously just say, "Oh yeah, we just attended this," because somebody somewhere will ask. The accountants will say, "Well, what they've been doing all day?" You know where I'm going with all that. So
I do.
The whole thing about him, I find very suspect. I'm sorry, but it's just another angle of this case that doesn't add up. Why he was called? Why didn't anyone ask any more about that tap being the one tap? He couldn't afford to fit another tap. It's a multi-billion
it's crazy
organization. Nobody even said sorry. What it just.
But I suppose it comes down to what the managers considered to be a priority, and they probably thought there were other areas that were a bigger priority within the hospital, or other purchases that were a bigger priority. And I've seen it. I've worked in the public sector, and I've seen priorities being given to the wrong things, what I consider to be the wrong.
Yeah.
And you just have to kind of sit there and accept it. Really much about it. If a senior person has made that decision.
Yeah, true.
But I don't know if you guys have. Sorry, I don't know if you guys have seen the latest. I don't know. This seems to be breaking news. In the Sun, it says Letby cop clash, fresh twist in Lucy Letby case as cops silence star witness whose evidence helped convict her. Have you seen that?
Yes, absolutely. It's extraordinary, isn't it?
That now.
Yeah, it's really the fault line has become it's out there now. They can't put that back,
Because how many times have we said in our videos and in the live streams that Dowie Evans is like the gift that keeps giving, because he keeps opening his mouth and just getting himself into more and more trouble.
Well, it's his, and you've got this other strand of him being, I've always thought of it as like being ghosted by them at some point, because, and he's telling that to like Dr. Phil Hammond of Private Eye. He's saying, well, you know, I've sent them 25 cases back in 2023. And he's telling Dr. Phil Hammond that in 2024, I've never heard anything. And he's never heard anything like for three years now about it. So they know, and it's almost like an open secret that they know that he's absolutely the weakest point for them. But at the same time, their whole case is based on him. So you've got that paradox that they can't square that circle.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. It seems like a very unhappy marriage.
It's an unhappy marriage. It is. Yeah, it is.
I've never understood why the police haven't used the get out card they've had a long time, because they clearly know they've made a mistake now. They must. But when the consultants went to them, they convinced the police that babies, quote, don't just die suddenly. And of course, we know now, probably everybody listening and all yourselves, know now that's not true anymore. They do actually, and it wasn't that uncommon, and it was quite common for all the hospitals around that time in that year to have them quite peaks. But the police pretty much said in the Panorama programme, I think, that was the reason they did start the investigation, because babies don't just collapse, is what they were told. So all they had to do really is to push back on it and just say, we were hoodwinked really by the consultants that isn't true. But now we found out actually it isn't that uncommon. And actually the investigation did start with this bias. And in fact, it's not true. And we were told erroneous information to start the whole inquiry. And they could have used that. And they may still go back to that. If they had any sense, they would. Because they know, everybody knows they're not backtracking because it looks so bad for them. And yet they do have a get out card there. And that is the truth of the matter. They did get hoodwinked by those consultants. And now we know there was emails as well, which we discussed already, that did actually say, you know, pique their interest and stuff. So they have plenty to still get out of this with some credibility almost.
Yeah.
You know, just a thought.
No, it's really interesting that, because they chose the opposite direction, which was to treble down, didn't they, and go for more charges. And now you've got this further apparent fault line between the police and the CPS now.
I know,
which is another aspect that we're seeing really.
Very unusual their response to that, isn't it? To openly criticise them. They'll be seething over that, I'm sure. Just to, you know, it's just never.
All this publicity is relatively recent, though, isn't it? If you take away Facebook groups and online communications, all the documentaries, including the Netflix one that hasn't yet been aired, and most of the newspaper coverage in Letby's favour, it's all very recent. The police made that decision prior to all of this. You know, the police are very reactive. I doubt they have people of any real caliber investigating something like this. They will have numbers on it, but what does numbers mean?
Yeah, it's quality, not quantity, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Because there was a guy in Operation Hummingbird, and it comes up in their mockumentary that's still up there on Cheshire Police. I left some pretty heavy duty comments there, and I took them off last night because I thought, well, I'm pushing it now. But that aside, in that group, they had to get somebody. They pulled this guy out, and he's the guy that's kind of like slouching like that, and he was retired, and they got him for some reason, like they couldn't get anybody that was on the force already there to like pull people out of retirement. And so it's weird, because it's clearly the biggest individual criminal, even though there weren't any crimes, criminal cases that they've been that they've done for decades, I'm sure.
Cheshire Police have been advertising quite recently. Somebody posted it on a group recently, and it was for serious crime investigation. I think I might have seen the word murder or manslaughter included within it.
Yes.
It wasn't particularly well paid. I can't remember how much it was. It was something like between 25 and 40,000 or something like it was an entry level-ish salary now by today's standards.
I saw that advert. I think it's at the DC level, isn't it? And it was like
Yeah.
a pro rata thing, so you could do a job split. So, but I absolutely, they didn't explicitly say it was Hummingbird, but I'm pretty sure that was the Hummingbird they were hiring for that.
Yeah, well, that's an administrator's wage. I mean, I have run businesses for 15 years. I have my own business now, and I employed administrators, and you know, they were earning wages in that sort of region. They were great at the if you give them a task and ask them to do something, they're absolutely fantastic. If I'd asked some of them to problem solve, then maybe 1 or 2 out of 10 would have been suitable. I appreciate that's not the job that I was offering them, but I suspect the next major development with this outside of the CCRC is going to be somebody's going to go rogue. It's going to either be somebody that works within the police that hasn't been listened to and they will come out publicly after they've left, or it's going to be a family member of one of the victims that says, look, I don't agree she's done this. I've had enough of being told to be part of a case I no longer believe in. I think that will be the next major development beyond the obvious, which is CCRC referral. And I think I don't think we'll have to wait too long, because people act in packs. And even this week, my friends are talking about this case, and they've never shown any interest prior.
Yes. Carl and Tony.
Go ahead, Carl.
Well, I mean, the way I look at it right now is there's been so much publicity in the newspapers. I think that's piling up a lot of pressure, because one thing they don't like in the public sector is bad publicity in the newspapers. And so, it's going to put pressure on the Cheshire Constabulary. It's going to put pressure on the Countess of Chester Hospital and on the CPS. I don't know whether the CCRC, they don't seem to care about bad publicity. And nor does the Court of Appeal. They'll just do whatever they do because they can. But all the other organizations don't like bad publicity. They don't like being on the front page of the newspapers for screwing up so much. And the quickest way to get this off the front page of the newspapers is to release her, really. Because people move on and talk about something else. But while she's in prison, the press are not going to leave this now. It's like Hillsborough, it's like the Stephen Lawrence case, things like that. The press are not going to, when they smell blood, they just keep going. Yeah. They just keep going until it gets resolved.
Yeah. Just Carl, do you mind me asking a question? You weren't here when we were talking about Judge Goss retiring and the implications of that. I just wonder what your take on that is, actually. In
what sense? The implications? What do you mean? Do you think he might have been put into early retirement?
That do you think that it's part of a bigger picture, and that you think he's just retired and that's it, or do you think maybe he's retired because they know something bigger afoot is coming, like a retrial, or there's just going to be exonerated and he'll be out the picture a bit?
It's hard to say. I mean, I don't know his age, so.
I think somebody mentioned earlier that he's going a few years earlier than he would have normally gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, even to the lay observer, he made such a hash of the case. I've been in Crown Court. I've been in the Old Bailey many times when I was a fraud officer, and I've seen some bad judges, and I've never seen anything that bad in my life.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
In light of that, I put up a link there to the announcement of the quote-unquote happy retirement of Judge James Goss. And in that thing, and somebody mentioned it again. I can't remember who made the comment on a video, or it might have been a post, and it was with regard to who are the people that are giving him this what's called a valedictory. And you've got here, it was attended by the Lady Chief Justice of England and Wales, Baroness Carr, with Dame Victoria Sharp speaking for the judiciary as president of the King's Bench Division. So you've got all the real heavy hitters there coming around him to say, for he's a jolly good fellow, basically, haven't you?
Yeah.
That's where we are with him at the moment.
Well, it's kind of like, you know, when Andrew first got stripped of some of his titles, and there were still people rallying around him. You know,
yes.
When you're you know, of that ilk, from that sort of background and in a position of authority or power, but even when you are disgraced, people still rally around you. Look at I mean, the fact that Epstein got convicted originally, you know, or he got, I can't remember, he did get convicted, didn't he, Epstein, initially?
He did, and he got this very, very soft sentence where he could basically like leave some of the time and basically worked, even carried on his business from a ridiculous sentence.
And everyone continued to rally around him.
Yeah.
The fact that he was a convicted paedophile, they just carried on rallying around him. So these disgraced people, if they're powerful people, people still rally around them.
Yeah, Bernie Rowland's absolutely, Carl. Bernie Rowland says mandatory retirement 75 for a judge. Goss is 72, so he's having an early bath, 3 years early. There's a lady made the comment on the post, and it was a really good how she put it. She said he's having this. I said early bath, and she said otherwise she's going to have to bath with all the other team, meaning all the other people when it all collapses. So there's all going to be like a filthy situation. He's going to have to be involved. So he's like creating distance, isn't he, in a way? Or he's been advised to create distance, you know.
So they'll be in the know for sure.
Yeah, but
definitely in the know.
Did you guys talk about that? I think it was detective superintendent who has been speaking to all the newspapers saying that he thinks it's a clear miscarriage of justice. Have you spoken about that?
Yeah, we've skirted over it. The guy called Detective Superintendent Stuart Clifton that was involved in the Beverly Allitt. He was the SIO for the Beverly Allitt case, wasn't he? Yeah. What thoughts do you have about him and the impact that he might have, Carl?
I think it's quite a powerful, you know, a powerful ally for Mark McDonald and for the defense team, because his involvement in the Beverly Allitt case, and you know that he knows what you should be looking for. He knows what counts as good evidence to prosecute someone. If he's saying this is not good evidence, then you've got to take his word for it, because he was one of the first people to ever convict a nurse for anything of this nature. You know, so you'd expect him to come down on the side of the prosecution because of his past, but he's actually looking at it and saying, no, this is nonsense.
Well, that's absolutely right, and it kind of goes to the idea that I've never looked into the Beverly Allitt case at all, but I'm aware that in the Lucy Letby case, the shadow of Beverly Allitt is all over it from the beginning, in the sense that the trust as a whole, those group of consultants, they have meant to have thought what they actually were thinking. I don't know, but you know, is this another case like that previous case? And so is it another instance of it? So him coming out is just an absolute kind of coup, really, for Mark McDonald, as you say, incredibly supportive, I think. And we've also got Dr. Watts, the previous. He was in Hampshire, wasn't he, as assistant chief constable? That Chris on Lucy Letby Analysis has interviewed him a couple of times. So you've got two very high-ranking former police officers now.
And to be honest with you, on is it Sean Atwood's channel?
Oh, has he been speaking about this or?
Well, he actually had a former Scotland Yard detective as a guest, and he was talking about more the Madeleine McCann case,
Yeah.
But then he brought up the Lucy Letby case, and I've never followed it up to see what happened. But he asked him about the Lucy Letby case, and then the detective said that he would have to go and look at it and come back to him with his views on it. So I don't know what his views were. So I'll have to try and. He's regularly on Sean Atwood's channel, but I can't think what. And I think I've seen him on a number of different channels.
Yes.
And I think he might be like, one of those people, ex-detectives that journalists use to do some digging up and, get sort of information that they can't get hold of.
Absolutely. Sorry, go ahead. So beg your pardon.
No, but I'm just saying, having these sort of people supporting her innocence is like probably the best support she could ever have, because those people are going to be considered credible because of their role. Like the judge who, I can't remember the name of the judge who criticised the prosecution.
Lord Sumption. Sumption. Yeah.
So you got him. You got a few police officers, former senior police officers, criticising the prosecution. Those are the sort of people that have a bigger voice than us, because they're the people who could have ended up involved in the case in the first place.
Well, absolutely, it's extraordinary, and I think it's come out in the Sun, that same story, but it's also was replicated in the Daily Telegraph as well. So it's hitting different kind of demographics. Yeah. So I think it's going to turn the opinion of quite a number of people. Just want to say hello to Operation Merlin Falcon, has also restarted his channel up again and has started talking about the case again, which is great news as well.
I haven't seen his new videos, but I need to.
Yeah, well, I think he did a hi Merlin, and did a video about the state of the unit. Really, there's some old film of the unit and the state of the tiles and the sort of discoloration, and it doesn't look very sanitary, to put it mildly,
Yeah.
So there's that. Matt, have you got any views with regard to the effects of these kind of higher, I know they're retired police officers, do you think that they could have an impact as well on what's happening?
Oh yeah, 100. I mean, this is the most impactful week there's been. I think that it's more coincidence that this retired police officer's statement has been used this week. It could easily have been Lord Sumption if he'd released his statement at the same time, because I think Lord Sumption's statement carries even more weight, to be honest. He was head of the judiciary, effectively, wasn't he? So yes. I can't recall what the title is that they give to him, but him speaking on, I think I saw him on Talk Radio or one of the news channels speaking, gives as much validity to it as anybody. So all of this helps, but the publicity this week has been by far the biggest since this whole thing has been going on, by a mile. I mean. My sister has texted me. She never texts me about anything.
Someone just asked whether it was John Wedger. Yeah, it was John Wedger. I just looked him up. It was John Wedger.
John Wedger, yeah, I'm aware of him.
The former Scotland Yard
detective, and
who was on Sean Atwood's channel talking about the Lucy Letby case.
Right, interesting, and a few other channels are coming in, whereas they hadn't been before, because I think they can. It's almost like there's a barometer out there in so-called alternative media where you can begin to feel a shift happening. There's been some really brilliant commentators and sort of alternative journalists, I suppose they're called, like Sonia Poulton, who has always been very supportive all the way through. You've got David Curtin as well of the Heritage Party. He, right from very early on, he's been very supportive, as saying this is likely to be a miscarriage of justice.
Even got David Icke's channel, because I did.
Yes, because I saw a bit of that, because somebody put up a video, because I looked at it and you're on there, because I saw the original Iconic, but Carl, that you did You did that over a year ago, didn't you? I think it was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I can't remember exactly when, but it was.
But that was great as well. But somebody's put up video, kind of like they've re-uploaded it on another channel.
Okay, I'll have to look.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of like big voices that are supporting her innocence.
Yeah. There are, and like Matt was saying, the other thing is it's the concentration of them in terms of time, isn't it? It's really been condensed. In the past, I forget his name. You've had the former head of the CPS as well, and you've had this Lord Sumption guy. You've had Jeremy Hunt, the former health minister. Obviously, David Davis has played a blinder all the way through. They're amazing. In a sane world, after that Shoe Lee conference, it would have been over within a couple of weeks. They should have turned it around, but we're not in a sane world, unfortunately.
I think they need to change the legal system so that when somebody's clearly, or there's a lot of evidence that somebody might have been the victim of miscarriage of justice, they release them from prison on house arrest. Yeah. Because it's just not right to keep someone who is probably innocent in prison at the, kind of, in danger really, because they're a target.
Yes.
Or all the nutcases who were looking for a trophy. Because
they're going...
That's true. Yeah. Sorry, Matt.
They're going to address the root cause of this, Carl, would be my guess. They're going to try and stop some of these miscarriages of justice taking place, and the only way to do that is to change possibly the adversarial court system when it comes to anything to do with medical cases. But also, Chris Morris made a very good point on this. Just because a case is a long court case doesn't mean it's a good court case. Okay, there was so much garbage in that court case that I had no idea was admissible in the British judicial system. Whole weeks of stuff that should never have been discussed. So of the transcripts I've read, I reckon for meaningful information, that 10-month court case could have been 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, I mean, how were they allowed to go on about going commando for like a few hours in a court case, whether she knew what going commando meant? I mean, what was the relevance of that to
it's disgraceful
case? It was awful. It was like, I wanted to cringe when I was reading on that because I just thought, how could this happen in sort of 2024 or whenever it was in the British justice system?
But when on the retrial of Baby K, I went across to Manchester and sat in, and I didn't get in the main court. I got in the overflow court for the journalists and stuff. And about a third of it was taken up by some guy discussing how, I forget whether it was the monitoring machine or the CPAC machine. I can't remember, to be truthful, but that was the thing. It wasn't very clear. So when people like Liz Hull say they sat in the courtroom, but they didn't actually get in the courtroom every day. They were in the overflow. And it wasn't like being in the main court at all because it's just a TV on the wall. And it's not a particularly good feed. And it's panning from one thing to another. And in that time, while I was watching, the guy spent at least half an hour discussing that machine and how it worked. I mean, it must have, if that's what the jury had sat through for the previous other 9 months, it must have been bored senseless on a lot of the days. And what's hilarious is the machine actually turned out to be faulty. And he was giving this thing credence on how it worked and how this alarm would go off if this happened and how this button would shout up if that happened. And in fact, the damn thing didn't work. So they were fed a load of nonsense anyway by, just one thing after another. Incredible. Yeah.
That's Tony. That sounds the
screen.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The screens went down at Thirlwall a couple of times.
Right.
And I was only there for 2.5 days, and it must have been affected for at least a couple of hours by IT issues.
Yeah, and yet there's this this is all supposed to be these hearings. This is somebody's liberty at stake, and the public have got a right to see it. And yet they say, oh, well, the courtroom's not big enough. Off you shuttle off into another room. There's a live feed, but it's not the same at all. And then, you know, even when it's on, it's grainy, and it's not always the sound quality. It's very difficult to hear exactly what's going on. It's not really, you know, in the true sense of the word, that the public have a right to see that trial. I'm sorry, but you don't get in. I was turned away from that quite forcibly as well.
Oh, God.
Yeah. In fact, it was a bit annoying because I let a woman in before me, being polite, and then I got told I couldn't come in. So it was a bit annoying because I wanted to, you know, just sort of see the full shenanigans, what was going on. And they had that damn chart up, you know, the one, well, the famous, you know, where the Richard Gill's obviously poo-pooed completely with her being on shift. And that was behind me. I was looking at that. Oh my God, it was just, I was looking, there was no key to it. I don't know how I bit my lip, really. I didn't just run into the other courtroom and say, look, that is a load of nonsense. I mean, I'd only looked at it for 5 minutes. It was a load of nonsense, you know. Anyway, so.
No, absolutely. And then they've got the nerve to say, and Evans has got the nerve to say, well, it was nothing to do with statistics or statistical claims, you know. But Carl, before you came in, I mentioned, we were talking a bit about Thirlwall, and I mentioned that as well as that Matt has done, you also attended some of the Thirlwall, and you saw some funny shenanigans there, or there's some weird experiences there, wasn't there, for you?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stuff that happened that, you know, because, I mean, most of the people I sat with were people who were certain she was guilty. They were just ordinary members of the public who were certain she was guilty. And, you know, obviously I was certain she was innocent. And there was one woman who clearly recognized me from my YouTube channel and decided she was going to make my life hell the whole time I was there. And she was quite rude, quite I would call, like, she accused me of using my phone or something during the hearing, because, you know, we weren't allowed to have any electronic devices out. And what actually happened was my Ring doorbell went off, and because I've got an Apple Watch, my Apple Watch was about to make a load of noise, and so I was trying to work out how to switch off the noise on my Apple Watch. And she was calling across, and then she was kind of trying to get one of the security or whatever to come over and get me out, throw me out or something. And yeah, it was just she was a very unpleasant woman. So I did a video about her.
I remember that. And but that's a kind of sign, really, about some of the people, some of the energy of the people that they're bringing, whether it's on Twitter, I'm not on there anymore, or on YouTube, that they feel incredibly that it's very personal to them, that they got to attack anyone that's speaking out against this. So it's almost like I don't know what the psychology is, but it's almost like they're worried that somebody's going to take their serial killer story away from them, you know, because they've become wedded to it, and they don't want any. They're not interested in. I don't think they're interested in the truth personally, but maybe I don't think I'm. Well, no, they would see me as biased, obviously, I guess, but it's just. But we're right, and that's the difference. That's what I'm saying.
And I mean, what was interesting about when I attended Thirlwall, because I just happened to attend I did deliberately attend the 2 days when Tony Chambers and Ian Harvey were giving evidence, because I really wanted to hear what they had to say. And to be honest with you, I was shocked with what they said, because they were I think they were very forthcoming. And I think it kind of upset the whole hearing, because, you know, Tony Chambers kept on saying, well, the reason I didn't do this is because there wasn't any evidence that she had done anything. I didn't believe she was guilty. And he just kept on saying that. There was no evidence. I didn't believe she was guilty. You know, so, you know, at least he stood his ground. He wasn't going to be bullied into, like some of the other people who gave evidence were maybe bullied or felt like they were under a lot of pressure to say things that weren't true.
Do you think there might be a connection with how they and I'm not, how do I put this, that it's not that they might have said what they said anyway, but they're aware that they haven't been arrested at that point, but they're hearing noises that they're going to come after us next. So they're going to have to make a choice about saying, well, we have to defend what we did. And what they did was right. They did support Lucy Letby, and that was the right thing to do. You know, so I think it's almost, in a sense, that they've kind of kept the same line, haven't they, from the beginning in that way, you know?
Yeah, I agree with potentially that's the case. But I mean, I was a fraud officer for 11 years. I interviewed people under caution every day. And just watching both Ian Harvey and Tony Chambers, they came across as genuine to me. Like they were passionate. And particularly Ian Harvey was Tony Chambers was very passionate about nursing because he used to be a nurse.
Yes.
And he worked his way up to chief executive, but he used to be a nurse. And he's very passionate, and he was saying that, you know, there were things going on that he didn't agree with, and he was shocked. He said he was genuinely shocked when he found out that they were taking on babies that were so, so premature, because they shouldn't have been taking those babies. So he was quite angry when he found out that they were taking babies that they weren't equipped to deal with.
Yes, that's another whole area in which and this is something that a number of people are looking at, is the whole, how is this network operating with these level 3 units? What kind of interactions are there between Breary as the neonatal lead and Dr. Yoxall, who has also been more latterly used by the police as an expert on these cases that have ended up being rejected by the CPS? There's all kinds of machinations between the different units there, and we're trying to hopefully drill into that a bit more if we can, you know, through FOIs.
Yeah. Well, you're doing great work on the FOIs, though. You're pretty tenacious.
Yeah, well, the weird thing is, it's like you'd want to ask it all in one FOI, but then they just send the reply back to you. This is going to cost more than 450 quid to answer this, and they'll be able to. So you've got to break it up in kind of minutely. You basically. We need to know everything. If we were, we're not going to be allowed to know everything. And I can't remember if it was Tony or Matt or somebody else was talking about the WhatsApp messages, the WhatsApp. Oh, this is something to ask you. I don't think you were there at this point, Carl. WhatsApp as a platform in relation to your work as a fraud officer, is it possible to get? And Matt, I think Tony thought you could get the information back like from 10 years ago, or does it get taken off the platform, the digital?
No, I think everything on WhatsApp gets archived. So after a certain amount of time, it gets archived and it's recoverable as an archive. So WhatsApp will have it on their system as an archive. It's just a way of making the file smaller so it doesn't take up much space. But the actual text in the WhatsApp message, maybe it won't have all the images, but it will have the text from all the messages. So
it's that text we want to see, because there is something there called Steve's WhatsApp group, you know, and it's there somewhere possibly to be found. And if somebody can release that to the public or to Mark McDonald's team.
What we were saying before you arrived, Carl, was that if you combine that WhatsApp group with the final meeting that took place before the police's interest was peaked, to use the phrase, but if you can combine those two things, then you know, case is solved. But it's easier said than. Something happened in that meeting, and I suspect it was supplemented by the WhatsApp group.
But I think the case is solved already. You know, this is just icing on the cake. The WhatsApp message. Yeah,
I don't disagree. Yeah.
The case is long solved. I mean, it's just
it should be.
It's like, you know, they had very little to take her to court and get a conviction over. They didn't have very much, and it probably wasn't even enough. Really, it should never have resulted in a guilty verdict. But the amount of evidence that there is to prove her she's innocent is really crazy. I mean, because I followed. I think I told you before. I followed the Barry George case back because I knew he was innocent once I watched this. I think it was Panorama or Dispatches or something, and I watched it. I thought, yeah, this guy's blatantly innocent.
Yes,
and it didn't even have a fraction of the evidence that Lucy, in his defence, that Lucy Letby has to prove she's innocent. And you know, it's difficult to prove well, to prove kind of like a negative, like you didn't do something. But
it would be interesting to know what tipped the police over the edge. I think that's probably a better.
What with Barry George, or
no, sorry, with Lucy Letby.
What tipped them over the edge to go for a prosecution?
Yeah, so the emails surrounding piquing their interest were sent, but it was the police weren't going to do anything until that final meeting was held, and it was after the final meeting that they decided very quickly to go and arrest her. So something's taken place in that final meeting.
I think that Ravi Jayaram had his light bulb moment and said, "Oh yeah, I just remembered there was this incident where I saw her standing over a baby, and that was it." I reckon that would have been the thing that might have, because suddenly they had,
surely not.
No, but they didn't have any witnesses of her doing anything at all, and he hadn't brought that up. When was the first time he brought that up? Standing over Lucy Letby,
2
standing
days
over.
later, wasn't it?
Well, I wonder if it coincides. I think from what I remember, because it was spoken about, because Tony Chambers was asked about it and Ian Harvey, and I think they both said it was in the meeting that one of the final meetings they had after when they called in the police the second time, because the first time they called in the police, they said you don't have anything, and they weren't interested. Well, so it's the second time they called in the police. So I'm sure it coincides with that, because I think he brought it up with Ian Harvey and Tony Chambers in a meeting first, and then that's when the police came back a second time and thought, oh yeah, now we've got something.
It's interesting that these 9 cases that they sent to the CPS have been rejected this time, and yet they can't have been any more than what they had for the other 22 cases that went. So that's really quite interesting. I found that fascinating, actually.
Well, we said didn't we, Mark, in the last live we did, that's almost a confession by the police that the original convictions were wrong.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Oh God. Yeah.
The CPS, not by the police. Sorry, by the CPS.
The CPS.
They made a mistake. They made a mistake prosecuting her the first time.
Exactly.
Yes. It's certainly. I just want this meeting that's on the 15th. So it's attended by Nigel Wenham's there. You've got Breary, you've got Jayaram, you've got Dr. Susie Holt, who's probably a more important character than some people may have thought hitherto. Certainly I did. I know other people, I know Jenny, who's in the chat here, believes she's very instrumental and important in the role that she played. So you got the minutes of that meeting. You've got the minutes of it, but there's also what was said off record, really, isn't it? And that's I think it was in that. And Detective, whatever his rank was, Nigel Wenham has said that he was kind of influenced by those doctors as a whole, all their experiences, almost like he had a religious conversion into a cult, way of thinking. That's the way he's described it, Nigel Wenham. And when they're talking about Nigel Wenham, the doctors in their emails, they're saying it's like he's on the way, as it were. So they just need to nudge him that bit further. So it feels like it's a bit of a process to get Wenham over the edge. And like Matt's saying, I think things were said off record in that meeting, which, because if you look at the bare bones of the minutes, I don't see how that has swung it. So it's something else that happened there personally. That's why.
Is that when they said, do you think that the babies just don't collapse? Do you think that's when they use that line to the police?
Well, that was Darry Evans, though, wasn't it? Wasn't that Darry Evans' line?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly echoed that. But I think they basically convinced the police that there was they've got to investigate. Somehow they managed it, didn't they?
They said that meeting. That's on TV, isn't it? In an interview, they said that's what caused them to think there is something here, that babies don't just collapse, according to the consultants, and that's what made them push them then. So I wonder if that's when it was said, actually, in that meeting. It just made me think that's when
it could well have been, because it gets translated into Paul Hughes saying an absurd thing is that nothing unexpected ever happens, nothing unexplained effectively ever happens. So that's what he's ended up thinking. So has that been conveyed to him, which is absolute nonsense, you know?
But I've got to say, I have to worry about the actual IQ of Paul Hughes, because he's got to be an absolute blithering idiot to actually listen to some of the shite that came out of the mouths of some of these consultants and Dowie Evans. I mean, Dowie Evans, my God. I mean, some of the nonsense that he said, and not think to himself, there's something wrong here. There's something doesn't add up. He should have known it didn't add up. So, you know what I mean? He really, it's unfortunate. And you look at when he gives interviews, he does come across as quite thick. So,
yes, I mean, you know, comparing it to this other superintendent who's now retired, when you read his comments, he's effectively saying it shouldn't have. It's not that it shouldn't have got to court. It should never have ever reached a charge to even have CPS consider it. That's what he's saying. You would never have even got to the charge level.
By the way, if you don't hear from me again, it's because I just said this about Paul Hughes. And he's come from me. He'll be turning up with some armed police officers.
And he's not that far. He's not that far away from you, is he?
He's not that far. He's up the road. He's literally up the road. Well, not up the road, but you know, take him less than an hour to get to me, I think.
But just to take the heat off you a bit, Carlo, I'll revert back to another case in Ireland. Remember the Sophie Duplantier case down in a place called Skull? So the guy that they sort of was fingering for that was a guy, Ian Bailey. He was an reporter in London, I think, and he I mean, it seemed unbelievable. He actually set off to the crime scene 20 minutes before it was actually on the news, and they got this on a timeline from his phone calls. He was then seen driving down a little dirt track towards her house, her cottage, and a neighbour was coming the other way, and she testified that she saw him on that track, and yet he maintained that he didn't know anything about the case until he'd heard it on the radio. But yet here he was on a track. And when the police tried to get a case against him, they had lots more than that. I won't go into it. Even the policeman who met him at the scene when he took his camera out to report on it at the bottom of her drive, the policeman thought he was acting very, very suspiciously. You know, and he knew this guy from a few years earlier when he'd reported another case, some suicide. And he said he wasn't the same guy. He was acting very strange. So there was so much circumstantial evidence against him. But when they tried to get the Crown Prosecution Service in Ireland to bring a case, they wouldn't bring that case to trial. They wouldn't let it go. And it just compared to this Lucy trial, it just beggars belief, actually. The amount of circumstantial that they, well, there was not hardly any circumstantial stuff against Lucy, other apart from a fictitious bloody roster when she only had to be there the day before and on the day, you know, taking out all the doctors and everybody else. You know, it's just a joke, just a joke. And it just seemed the disparity between those two cases. I just thought, God, if they must have laughed at looking at this case, those same guys who must have rejected that Ian Bailey case, and yet he was actually committed in France in abstention because they knew he was guilty, and yet the Crown Prosecutor said, no, you cannot bring a case against this guy unless you've got some actual evidence and none of this circumstantial shit. Just because he was seen on the drive, just because he made that, he could have had a hunch. Do you know what I mean? Amazing, actually, just how strict they were. And yet in the UK, well, in England anyway, they let that case go to trial. Unbelievable. Should never have gone to trial.
I mean, is it right to throw a spanner in the works? Well, no, throw my spanner in it. It's just I went down like a rabbit hole with that for months on that thing and watched everything I could about it, and it ended up where there is a potential theory that a police officer killed Sophia Duplantier and it wasn't Ian Bailey and that he was hounded. So that's an alternative sort of view of it.
We'll come back to that some other day.
But it's an absolutely extraordinary case, and like you say, because it happens in West Cork in Ireland, and and like you say, Tony, he is found guilty in France, so he's not allowed to. If he passed away now, Ian Bailey, but if he was to travel back to England, he could be arrested and extradited to France to face the sentence, couldn't he? Because he was tried in absentia.
He would have actually gone straight to prison without even going through it. The trial had been and gone. You know, he was guilty as far as they were concerned. In fact, there was another case it was a funny case where some guy murdered a woman, but he said it was an elk, but he got prosecuted for it. And then they actually got him. Some guys had just literally bounded him into a van and dropped him in France, and then literally that was it. He was off to prison. Yeah.
Right.
He was a French national in Norway, I think. Do you know what I mean? It was a really weird case.
It's not ringing a bell, but I mean the thing about France, obviously they don't have the adversarial system, do they? They've got the different system.
Completely. I kind of like it in a way that they wouldn't even knock on your door unless they were about 99.9% sure you were guilty. So you are pretty much guilty until you prove your innocence. When they arrest you, you are guilty pretty much. As long as they've got but they do it the right way, and they do all the proper groundwork before they even look at you. So,
yes. I'm just. There's something. I know this is the case you just mentioned, Sophia Duplantier. There's an amazing podcast called the West Cork Podcast. Oh, yeah. That was my entry into it, and. It's a fascinating area in itself, West Cork, apparently. I've never been there, but it just sounds very interesting. But there's an amazing podcast if you put it in Google. That's a really interesting way to get into that story in a way. But
so I know I digress off of this, but it's just the disparity between the CPS there.
The
way they would have never have let this Lucy case go to trial in the UK.
Well, that's amazing.
What they, I'd like to see the difference in their almost operating procedures, almost that why they could say no so ardently, and yet in the UK we let it. Just didn't have anything, did they?
But I've just got a question. I mean, do any of you think that all the revelations in the newspapers and so on this week or this month will increase her chances or the chances of the CCRC referring her case to the Court of Appeal this year? Do you think it's more likely now that it will go to the Court of Appeal this year, or do you think they're still going to sort of drag their heels for a few years?
Matt, Tony,
it's definitely not less likely. I think I've always thought it was going to be between Easter and the summer. I said Easter, but I've heard a lot of people with authority, including Mark MacDonald, say I think it's going to be around the summer. He was quite non-committal about it. I think, reading between the lines, CCRC now has a new head. They're going to want to be seen to be turning the organisation around. They can also do that. It nicely ties in with, if they can salvage something politically from all of this mess, then maybe the turnaround of the CCRC will be it. I also think the head of the CCRC, Mark MacDonald, said he knows her. He wouldn't say any more than now. Obviously, there's lots of people know each other, but he wouldn't say any more than that. But you're kind of getting to the point where he's intimating that if he says he thinks it will be the summer, then that is with some sort of authority that he's been given a nudge. Now, that's me saying that, not him, but I'm reading between the lines there. So I think with some authority that it's going to be around that sort of time. All of this publicity, I think, does no harm. The revelations, actually, there's not a lot of new content in what's come out this week. It's just the volume of it.
Yeah.
it's the volume that gets people's attention. Like I said, it's people talking about it that have almost certainly a year ago, I was roundly dismissed by people I knew, and I got called the usual names and all the rest of it, and you know, conspiracy theorist.
Right,
Do you hate the NHS? Are you crazy? And all the rest of it? No, I'm none of those things. They're not saying that now. They're sort of it's more inquisitorial. So, and that's only with a week's worth of publicity. So imagine when it really starts going. Which there was an argument a month ago that, and I can't remember. It might have been yourself, Carl, or Mark. I cannot remember. But there was people saying that it's possible that the parents of some of the children aren't aware of the nature of the defence now being put forward by Letby, because at that point the mainstream documentaries hadn't been released, or they'd only just come out. I think we're getting to the point now that once Netflix does it, we've had one on Channel 4, one on ITV. Obviously, there's all the YouTube stuff that we see as well. You're kind of ticking off boxes now, aren't you? It's almost impossible that you can't be aware that there's concern as to the validity of the conviction. And I think that reaches as far as the parents of the victims as well at this stage, once it comes out on Netflix. Now, I don't know the parents. They might have listened to the solicitor and just believed them. Plenty do. But, you know... let's say they're young parents, well, they're going to talk to their parents or their aunties and uncles and everything else, aren't they? Most people have some sort of network of people that will say, well, have you thought about this, or have you thought about that? And I don't think it's going to be, it's either that or somebody that works within the police is going to come out and having left, which happens all the time in the public sector. They leave and then they say, oh, this happened, that happened, it was terrible, horrible place to work, and somebody's going to go rogue soon, and I think that will push it in the right direction publicity wise. Once again, there'll be a whole new wave of publicity off the back of that.
Yes, interesting.
Just an opinion.
No, that's really that's really a lot of food for thought there. Yeah, Tony, were you going to say something there?
Yeah, no, I really don't have any idea about when it will go back. As you say, I think it will be this year. But just one thing, as you say, people, it's nice to see so much out there now. And as you say, every avenue, you can't really know that there's not some concern for her likely innocence. Well, we know she's innocent, but even if you were thinking on the fence, you're going to know, you're going to see now that she really is. The thing that irritates me the most is when people spout the thing, well, she's had 2 trials, 2 different juries. And I just think, yeah, but they were fed. If you actually did any reading or anything, just looked into the case just a little bit, you would see the amount of stuff that was withheld from them. Even if you learnt that, apart from the fact that, you know, take out the incident case where Judge Goss directed the jury that they were the smoking gun, which clearly they weren't, but yeah, hey-ho. So that was one reason that they could have gone back to the Court of Appeal, because that's one of the 4 things if you misdirect the jury, which he did, but nobody seems to mention that. And so on and so on. You know, there's just so many things. I just hope that, you know, there's people like the Sun really do kind of give the, you know, every kind of aspect of reader something concrete to sort of latch onto and think, oh, that's not right, you know, because I think the thing that, you know, a lot of it is a lot of medical technicality, and I think people switched off a little bit from that. And, you know, it would be nice if they do put it in succinct terms for some folk, you know, probably for half of the people who made up that jury anyway. And I'm sure, I don't know, you'd like to know what they understood and what they didn't about it all. I don't know how either of those jurors could have convicted her. I honestly don't.
Yes, I wonder what they're thinking now. Trevor Chap in the comment here says, are the legal teams blocking the parents from seeing Shu Lee's reports? Because we know Mark McDowell has made a very over offer to the parents that he will share the reports with them about their children. So is it possible that the police stroke other agencies are kind of controlling or wanting to control what gets to the parents in some way, or influencing them?
Possibly, Mark, but they can't block the internet.
No, that's true. They can't, and
they can't block the press They can't block the press conference, which is the bones of the matter, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. I mean, if you saw that alone, it would give you. I know it's a very delicate area talking about the parents, but so many people have said, or a number of comments I've read have said something to the effect that if it was my child, I would want to see these reports, because I'd want to know if somebody thought something different had happened. So, but I don't know if everyone would feel that. I don't know, but it makes sense in a way. But have the police done a number on the parents in the sense of like really getting them into, and with this, in this last group of like 9 parents, what they've left them with is a terrible thing, isn't it? Because they've left them with the idea that 2 children have been murdered and 7 attempted murders, and that the CPS and system has let them all down, and they're going to think that potentially forever now until Lucy Letby is exonerated. So they've done a terrible thing to those parents now as well, haven't they? I think.
Yeah. Yes, it's just a tragedy all round for the parents, for Lucy Letby's family, you know, and for the careers of quite a lot of people, doctors and police officers, because I'm sure they're going to face a lot of repercussions for what's happened. So it's going to affect a lot of lives, or it has already affected a lot of lives.
Oh yes, and certain unquantifiable metrics, like how many nurses is it put off from going into neonatal care?
Yeah.
How many people is it put off from going into nursing at all? You know, how do we?
How many nurses have left out of fear of the same thing happening to them?
Absolutely, and that's why, you know, that the 19 Nurses Organisation has got, like, I think it's probably got more now, but the last figure I heard is well over 700 adherents to it. You know. Yeah.
But what this I mean, I agree with everything you said, Carl. There's so many points in amongst all of this. It would take forever to go through all of it. But another point is yet another reason not to go into nursing is the fact that, you know, your trade union will not back you up if something like this happens. Yes. You know, you can add that to the list. It's only a relatively minor one in the grand scheme of things, but
yeah. That's absolutely right, isn't it? You're not only dealing with the NHS, which can become this quite a, you know, solidified force all against you, but your union's going to be missing in action, basically, aren't they? You know?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's disgraceful. It's actually disgraceful what the union what the union hasn't done, basically, because, you know, the whole point of joining a union is that when things like this happen, they're there standing by you. But they just wash their hands of her. It's like
yeah,
bizarre, isn't it? That is.
Totally.
It is bizarre, and it's.
I did you know, a couple of videos about the is it RCN, and I just urged nurses to leave the RCN. There's no point. They've got no purpose whatsoever.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, and it kind of mirrors everything else. Everyone, apart from very, very few. Obviously, there was that nurse, Janet. I can't remember what's her name now, Janet Cox. But everyone else kind of moved away from Lucy Letby. Well, Karen Rees was with her for a long, long time. Then she felt under the pressure of her own legal advisors to kind of join the crowd, as it were, and then she went back. So it's a maelstrom of like pressure and fear that they've created, haven't they, around all people around it. You know.
But it's interesting someone's brought up Judge Goss again, because I think if or when Lucy Letby gets released from prison, if he had still been practicing as a judge, then I think that there'd been a lot of scrutiny from the press about why he allowed Dowie Evans to be or to his evidence to have any credence, because he was written to by another judge warning him. He was warned by another judge that Dowie Evans' evidence has no value.
Yes.
And if he had stuck with that, it would have saved the taxpayer a fortune, because she would have, once you threw out Dowie Evans, it was game over, really, near enough.
I mean, I don't think they could have conducted a trial without him there, could they? They couldn't have. It would have been well. There's no trial now because he's. I mean, you can't. They couldn't have done it on Mana Readers or and if Evans goes, then Bowen has to go. Then she,
Yeah. So that would have cleared up.
I might be wrong here, but I think Judge Goss was very clever where it came to Evans, in that he directed the jury to say, you can take or dismiss what he said, and that's it. So that exonerated him from any.
They're very good at that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that really exonerates him, because I think what he was told that Dowie Evans had done was so gross that he should have just removed him from the trial completely, or allowed the jury to hear the letter, the content of the letter from the judge, and then make a decision for themselves whether they gave his evidence any value.
For the system as a whole, there's a deeper problem about that particular matter, because in the application for leave to appeal, the Court of Appeal effectively ratify what Judge Goss did, because one of the grounds they brought, and they say in their Court of Appeal document, basically the reasons given to refuse leave to appeal, not the actual appeal, but leave. They say no, he's fine. Evans was fine. So they kind of ratified Goss's decision. So the system is balls deep in Evans, basically, and supporting him. So it goes deeper even into that system.
Yeah. I mean, anyone they probably didn't have, I mean, he hadn't started giving his interviews yet. Had he started giving all these interviews yet when the Court of Appeal made that decision?
Yeah. He was up like a rat up a drain pipe straight. Yeah, he was all over Sky. He was doing everything.
They might not have watched his interview, so they weren't aware of that side of things.
Yeah, they I think they live in some kind of rarefied atmosphere. A lot of them, I don't watch that. Down the club with a triple brandy and whatever. But maybe I'm stereotyping. But
yeah, I'm gonna have to go now because
thanks so much for coming on tomorrow. Brilliant.
Yeah, but I just thought I saw you guys were on. And I thought,
no, that's brilliant. Really glad that you came on. Thanks so much for coming. That's fantastic. Right. Have a good rest of the night, Carl.
All right, you guys take care and
take care. All the best. Yeah, I think it's all going in the right direction anyway.
It is, definitely.
Cheers, Carl.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye. Yes. So, how do we feel? Do we want to look at some other areas, talk about some other areas, or do we think we've covered enough for tonight? Or is there anything else that either of you would like to bring up, or anyone in the chat, please, as well?
Just reading the notes as you're speaking.
Yeah.
So, Simone's in the background here, Matt.
Oh yeah, what is Simone saying there?
She wants to say we did actually visit West Cork. We went on holiday.
Oh, you did? Is it nice out there?
It's down near Hull.
It looks beautiful, yeah, and a bit wild and windswept and stuff.
Yeah, it was interesting. You can't beat. It's a bit like what Carl was saying, that he went to the Third. Did you say you'd be, Matt, as well, to the Third?
I went to the summery days. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing how different it is when you go to a thing, isn't it, and see it in the flesh, as it were, and especially for the lucid trials. I mean, I live in Leeds and only have to go over to Manchester, so on my days off I went across. But it's very interesting to watch what's going on, to what the report on the day, and you will have seen. It's like you cannot beat being in the moment, can you? In those things, and when in some of that, going to that Ian Bailey case, some of the stuff they said about how he could see the lights on in a house from the hill that he drove back that long way that night.
Yes,
And
yes.
I actually drove that way, and they said you can't see jack shit from the top of that hill.
Oh, did you? You'd already looked into the case, and then you went to there, did you?
Just
Oh,
with
right,
we were
interesting.
just going. I go. My mother lived
Yeah.
in Cork, so I used to go anyway that way. But
Yeah.
it was interesting. It's always very Don't assume anything. Always check things out for yourself. It's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the traditional, and that should have been the spirit of any kind of, had there even necessarily been police investigation. That's the spirit they should have gone with, as opposed to let's get a guy that has written to the NCA, although there's a whole other story about that, and let's just go with everything he says. You know?
Well, that leads me on to something actually that the police, they've hung their hat on the case and saying, there's solid ground. But the one thing they said, I think Hughes said that in his investigation and the way he approached the case was that he assigned one officer to each family, and they all came back together and they had this eureka moment, didn't they? Where, so that happened with me. Yeah, a nurse Lucy came in or whatever. I don't know what it was, but I'm doing.
Yeah, I do.
But there was a moment what made him really knew he was onto something. And if that is so important, why don't they publicise what that was actually?
Yes.
Got something that's brilliant, that really nails the case, and why don't they just? I mean, I don't know what the rules are. Do you? I don't know. Why can't they? They seem to come out with everything else, publicise her in her pajamas, but yet they can't say the one thing that would get, if they're so, so adamant they've got the right person, and they can see there's a growing body of people, well, more than a growing body of people, isn't it? But against them and what they've done. Well, come on then, show us how you got to your conclusion. It's not a big thing to ask. It's not a secret. You're paid by the public people. You did it. What did you do? What did you let people see what you did if it's so, transparent and so up above board?
Do you not think that all they came back with was confirmation that it was her that dealt with their child, which confirmed the spreadsheet? I think it could have just been that.
I think so. This is the thing. Because if they had something more, they would surely do it, wouldn't they?
Correct.
Yeah.
I
think that's right. Is it possible that the Netflix, whatever it's going to be, is actually going to show some more of those little segments and joins, but it'll work against them in the sense that people say, hold on a minute, you've made a leap there that it doesn't make sense to us.
It's all going to work against them from here.
I hope so. I very much hope so. I can't see the Netflix thing working for them. It shouldn't do on a kind of natural law basis,
Well, how can it help? They've made accusations, like just off the trailer. They've made accusations they said she was emotionless when they spoke to her. That's not true.
Well, that's right.
I can see that from the trailer, which is 2 minutes. so what's the other hour and a half going to be like?
That's the kind of arrogance we're dealing with, or hubris, and it's going to lead to a collapse. And it's almost as though that it feels like they're desperate, but I've always wondered what's happening behind the scenes, and how are we going to even know that? But I suspect a whole bunch of stuff is happening behind the scenes.
I never understood. I don't have a great understanding of this, although it wouldn't take a lot to get to the bottom of it. But I still don't understand what the justification was for not arresting her by appointment.
Well, absolutely. Operation Merlin Falcon, who was in, I don't know if he's still in the chat now, but he was in law enforcement as a detective in America, and he's been very critical about this kind of what they call a perp walk thing to the car that then they use then in the news clips. They are being put in handcuffs as well, walking to the car, and it's all grandstanding, showboating stuff for the police. I think.
A long time ago, I used to. Oh, sorry, go on. Sorry, Matt.
No, you go on.
No, I used to work. I used to have to go to the Crown Courts in Leeds, and sometimes during the day when I was there, they'd be bringing a prisoner from the Armley prison to Leeds, and they had this way of making them look like they'd got the right person. So what they'd do is they would have a couple of police cars and armed police ahead of the truck bringing the prisoner, and then a couple behind. And what they'd do is they'd pull up alongside the car and literally skid the cars, jump out with them guns, and block the whole road off while the prisoner was taken in. But it gave this impression that they had the right person.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And they were something that could be completely innocent. And that was one of the tactics they did. It was quite clever.
It's to justify their own existence as well with all of these things, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is,
but she had no history of violence. Obviously, she's a woman, which shrinks that chance anyway, just by her gender and size. It seems that she could have been arrested at any point. Surely that would be done by appointment, and especially the second and third times. You know where she is because you've banned her from her house. So.
Yeah. I think they're acted in a despicable way. That's putting it mildly, but I think they're in full self-protection mode, and that's why they try to do these other cases. I've become so cynical that I believe that they know she's innocent, and they're doing it regardless. That's what I think.
You could be, you probably are right, Mark, but they are very arrogant. They're very reactive. These institutions. Yeah. They will be the last to realise. You might find it takes a few more weeks yet. It must be on the cusp of that.
You'd hope so, yeah.
We've been brought up a few times this evening about this institutionalised thing about the organisations like the NHS, the police, and the Crown Prosecutor, all of these, and I'm sure you could probably do a degree just on it, one of them alone. In terms of the way they behave as a group.
Yeah.
Almost a group think, isn't it? So, and as you know, you've probably been in a situation yourself where you probably want to say something but you don't because you're just going against, and it's not worth at that point, because if you speak up then you're not going to have a bigger voice later, and by the time you do speak it's too late. So
yes,
you can see how it goes. I'm sure there's a lot of smarter folk than me who've written a lot more information, books on these, how it works in reality. But it's frightening, isn't it? Though once you're in that machine on the wrong end of it, it is something else. And talking about motivation, the only motivation that I've ever seen this whole case is J-Ram, really, because he had to apologise to her about
yes.
And I don't think the jury knew about that either, which is
no. That was the whole thing. That's another thing Goss did. You can't explain by incompetence. I don't think that he didn't allow the RCPCH report. He didn't allow anything to do with the grievance.
No.
That Lucy Letby won, so.
Yeah, but when they talk about motivation, why they brought the case, that was the motivation, wasn't it? Clearly. I
think so. I think it absolutely was, and they were being threatened with being reported to the GMC, those consultants. Yeah. So, which was a big deal. Which the way I understand it, other people have explained it, is that if you are reported for something like bullying, you kind of go on. You can't. They basically take you out of your job while it's being investigated, and it could last years.
Most of I thought it was them who actually said that he had to attend some counselling sessions with her. That was them who said, and if he didn't, then he would be removed. I thought they were actually onto them.
Yes, kind of the mediation thing, and as it turned out, it was only Jayaram out of all of them that actually did the mediation.
But can you imagine? I mean, the guys. He's narcissistic, isn't he? He had 2 channels on TV. He never, did a couple of rounds, and then he was being made to apologise to a nurse, and then now apologising.
Yes.
Can you imagine his ego must be like unbelievable, and that's the motivation behind it all.
I think it's narcissistic rage in them. Yeah, absolutely. They want. I think they would have been happy with Lucy Letby being constructively dismissed personally in 2015, and we wouldn't be talking here tonight because it wouldn't have ever gone to the police.
I know. What I know it got brought up in the early days, but nobody mentions about that. I forget, is it the child death review panel that these hospitals?
The CDOT panel, child death overview
Is
panel.
that every month or every 3 months? I can never remember. But that how many months did that go through? And that they never brought anything up. And there's a police presence there. And yet it's 2 years to go. I just what the hell is that all about?
Well, the explanation. Sorry, go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's likely the content. I mean, I'm stating the obvious, but the content of those Datex reports she was filing would explain exactly why they were intent on getting her out the ward.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so. There's a lot of motivation there. A cup of tea with poetry. That's Liz. She says here, and I'm sorry, chat, I haven't been keeping up with all the comments, but in my opinion, the garden, when they're digging up the garden, the drains and the handcuffs are all by design for theatre and the media, really. And and they do tend to tip off the media, the police, don't they? When there's going to be, so they can be seen in those white outfits up in the gutters. They let people know. They let the media know, don't they? It's happening.
It's not a coincidence there was a photographer stood there.
Yeah, exactly. There's a relationship between the local and national press, and the Chester Standard in that case, and then the national press. Jairam, what does Bernie says? Jairam will be more famous than he ever thought possible.
Very good.
Right. That's an irony, isn't it? Because there was that moment where he was potentially going to be in this Jed Mercurio Netflix mini series dramatization, but that all became. I used to be on Twitter then, and it all became a very weird thing with Jed Mercurio saying I don't know anything about it, but like it was never a thing. But I think it was potentially a thing at one point.
It was getting very close for him to star in that, wasn't it?
And if. I mean, I think he was either going to be in a consultative position, possibly with a cameo, like I'm not sure if he's going to be playing himself, but I think he would have played himself if he would have been given the option. He would have been playing himself in a dramatization of it, which is ridiculous. But that's what we're dealing with, really.
I wonder whether could somebody orchestrate the whole thing for that end game in a way.
Oh well, he was dropped by his theatrical agent or media stroke theatrical agent, But that interview that he does with that guy called Paul something, I've forgotten his name. The classic interview where he's like they're on two chairs with each other.
You mean that night?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, Paul Brand, and they have the same agent, and you got all these weird little factoids like that,
Yeah. Yeah,
which is crazy stuff, really. But should we bring it to a close now? Unless there's any other kind of final things you'd either like to say, and about how you're feeling about it, but also, or how it's in. I'm really interested as well, and it's come up a little bit in the conversation, how you both said like other people have talked about it in your private life, and now they're beginning to change, and you've been kind of criticised to some degree. Is there something both like to say about that?
I've not really. I was very vocal in the very beginning, and I got a lot of backlash then, just saying, well, she's just clearly guilty and stuff. But since then, I've not seen those same people, annoyingly, to say, hey, have you seen stuff? But I often wonder what they must be thinking now, and I'm sure there's. Actually, that's interesting. I mean, there's a few friends that are starting to definitely say, I think you're right. But I don't have a huge circle of friends that I talk to about it. But the ones I have are definitely on my side now. So
right, would it be right to say you kind of noticed a slow burn of change over them as things have happened? Yeah.
But it's interesting. It seems that even though you can talk to your friends and family quite closely, and it's very difficult to change someone's perspective on something. But once it's in the press, it's funny that they only need one newspaper. Oh yeah, you were right.
Yeah. They need to
about
click
it for 5 years.
Yeah, it's like it makes it more official, or
Yeah, exactly.
kind of backs you up in some way, isn't it? That kind of thing, really. And how about yourself, Matt? Is there any, like, you said some things about it already, but just do you talk about it to many people yourself?
Only in passing when it comes up. I mean, I have family members that work within the NHS, and some of them are sick to death of the subject, and some of them will talk about it. None of them will talk about it in an open forum like this.
No, that's right. Yeah, gosh.
But I mean, the day she was convicted, I remember going out and saying to a friend, I'm not sure about this. There's no evidence. And he said to me, well, she's just been set down. So yeah, and I just thought I must have missed something. So I left it for a couple of months. And then I came back to it after a couple of months. Online, I was more certain at that point. I started speaking to a couple of people, and when I mentioned it at that point, you know, they looked at me like I had two heads.
Yes.
That's not the case now at all. I mean, I don't need to say anything now. I can just post an article by referring to Peter Hitchens, Jeremy Hunt, David Davis, or something like that, and say, well, look, you might think I'm an idiot, but these guys are saying it. So
is that on platforms like Facebook and Twitter? Is that what you're talking about? Those kind of areas as well?
No, I'm talking about social groups. I wouldn't talk about it to strangers. Aside from I mean, I'm on a couple of Facebook groups, but they I mean, it's similar to the one that you posted this on. They're just stuff that it is like-minded people.
Yes.
I went on forums that were expressing pro-guilt sympathies, if you want to call that, but I couldn't find any substance to them, so I stopped bothering. I believe the reason is because there isn't any substance, much like the original court case. So
exactly, it's a kind of weird replay of it, isn't it? Really.
So what's the point of me listening to people just saying over and over again? Well, you know, she wrote these notes. There's only so many times I can say to somebody that, because the note was the thing that I saw on the day she was convicted, and it was on that day I saw it, and I expanded it on my phone and immediately went, "That's not a confession note."
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly, and I think I've always thought that's almost like I don't see why other people can't see it, but some evidently can't, you know. But
yeah, well, that's what got my interest originally, because that's all. I just assumed I must have, because the case went on so long. I followed it in patches, but not a great deal. I just thought I must have seen the days where I must have missed the days where the evidence was.
That's pretty much almost exactly what Dr. Watts, the former assistant police chief constable of Hampshire, says. He said he was waiting for the evidence to come through when he was following it. So
really?
That's pretty much, it kind of echoes what he's saying, that from all the interviews he did with Chris, that he was waiting for the evidence, you know.
Yeah, it never came.
It never really came. I mean, it's this ridiculous idea that if you can, and some other people have put this really, really well, I'm going to butcher it now. It's just the idea you put this like list of very weak things together, and somehow it's meant to make something strong, you know, this linking chain link concept. But every chain is made out of like bloody something very weak, you know, and brittle, and well, it's non-existent actually. I don't see a chain at all.
Lots of weak evidence combined doesn't make strong evidence. It's just lots of weak evidence.
Precisely, that's a really succinct way of putting it, and that's exactly what it is. Yeah,
Mark, I know you were.
Simple as that.
I know you're trying to wrap it up, but you're getting me going now, because you talked about.
Well, that's all right. No, well, let's carry on. We can carry on. Yeah, I could do. I haven't got any booze in.
Yourself might remember, this is one of the most irritating things I ever saw in in a lot of the TV footage, I think it was the day she got convicted, some guy came out of the hearing, and he was a psychologist, I think, and he said, he was a middle-aged guy, maybe a bit older, and I don't know, he basically said, yeah, well, the reports, well, there wasn't any really concrete evidence or something, and he turned around and said, well, yes, but a lot of little arrows can make up more than one big arrow. And I thought,
God, just
almighty.
painful.
I wasn't going to mention you said it about the
yeah, it triggered them. Yeah, it's painful, that, isn't it? It's just, I mean,
And then I'm thinking, I'd love to know who he was and what he thinks now with all these little arrows broken, because
yeah. They're not going to be able to like go through a balloon or anything. They couldn't do anything, could they? These arrows, they're in his head basically, and they're in, and that's the weird part of all this. It's all in in the heads of those doctors. That's what it was, and it's just been pulled along like on this weird, dark, crazy train journey. All this stuff bad thoughts that are in their head.
I think as well, Mark, you can't, as much as I'd like to, you can't blame any one individual or group of individuals, including the doctors. There should be, in this day and age, systems for identifying things like Pseudomonas in taps and things like that automatically it should be an automated process. You shouldn't have to proactively seek things like that within the taps. It should be tested digitally or something. I don't know. I don't know exactly how these things work, but there should be some sort of process automation for that.
Well, they were fully aware of it. Everyone was aware throughout the whole indictment period that Pseudomonas is there. Then you've got Evans talking to John Sweeney saying, I had no idea that there was anything like that on that unit. And had I have known it, had it been my unit, I would have closed it down. So you've got these paradoxes of him saying everyone's stable, everything's fine, the doctors are great, unit's great, but I would have closed it down, by the way. It's just rubbish.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's madness. And he seems to be able to live with such complete oppositional ideas that he's expressing himself, and he seems to be able to. So yeah, that's Dowie Evans for you. So
I mean, just going on Dowie Evans again, just a little bit there. The way he just, what sticks with me a lot about him is the way he couldn't find anything else, but it had to be air embolism, and yet what that panel said, for crying out loud, Dr. Evans, even if you couldn't find it, there are 10 other good causes that could have caused this. Come on. And he never mentioned one in the trial, not one of the babies that he said there was any other reason or any other explanation that could have not been either the injection of air, the incident, or the air embolism case. I mean, it's just unreal, isn't it? So how he sleeps at night, knowing what he knows now, it's just unreal. I don't get
He's gone so far down the road now that it's almost like he obviously feels how it's impossible for me to even begin to. And that's where he's become a kind of utterly absurd character. So he's saying in that Channel 4 thing about Shu Lee and the panel, actual world experts, that you got your facts wrong, never get your facts wrong. Just absolute absurdity, and that's where that's the position he necessarily occupies now,
Absolutely unreal. Sorry to go back to one little thing. I just want to get this on the
record. Please, no.
So, I said I visited the hearing on Baby K.
Yeah.
A situation arose with Dr. Gibbs where, bear in mind that the trial was based a lot on like the notes, doctors only doing a couple of rounds a week, looking at the charts, saying X and Y, not spotting trends. And that's what in some hospitals, neonatal units at that level that those babies needed, they would have had a nurse virtually one-on-one in some American hospitals.
Yes.
Canadian ones more, because it's the very subtle changes that actually point to the fact that the baby only ate like 5 ml of milk less, and it's been increasing over the last 4 feeds. That's the subtlety, what points to something going wrong. which of course, you know, never was going to happen at the counters with the one people like Lucy trying to do 2 or 3.
Yes.
So,
yes.
so I'm digressing slightly, but I'm just building the picture that. So the notes were the only thing for the consultants to see a picture of, and it's this seeing comment that I'm going to get to. In the trial, Gibbs was handed a floor plan on an A4 piece of paper, and he was given it to look at, and he was basically to point out where he would have been or where Luther. I can't remember the exactness of what, but he was handed this thing to look at, and when he looked at it, he couldn't actually read it. He couldn't see it. And the joke was, they handed him a magnifying glass, much to the laughter of that courtroom, which was
my God, that's
despicable. Actually,
I've not heard this anywhere before.
but because this is not reported, that's
it's not reported. No, they didn't report it.
When we were saying about, you know, Carl and yourself, Matt, going to these, this is the sort of stuff you see, and I thought, whoa, why isn't Myers standing up now and saying, wait a minute, you can't even read a floor plan. When did you last have your glasses tested? Because if I remember, your eyes fix at about 55, and they don't change after that. You know, they pretty much. So I believe that the glasses he was wearing that day were the same ones that he was probably doing his rounds with, and he couldn't read those charts just the same as he couldn't read that bloody floor plan. And Myers should have said, "Hang on a minute here." Now I know it's a bit courtroom drama, some off of whatever. I don't even watch them, but CSI Fridays, I don't. But you know, it's as simple as that. That's the kind of incredulousness that went on in that hearing, that Myers never even said, wait a minute, you cannot read that floor plan with your glasses on. You need a magnifying glass. And yet everyone laughed, and yet nobody picked up on it.
That's extraordinary. I've never heard that. It
is incredulous, actually, that nobody said, wait a minute, this whole trial, her liberty, hangs in balance about the fact that you're not spotting trends, and then you can't even read a floor plan. So how did you read those charts on the day?
That's an amazing thing, Tony. You've brought that to light in a public way here. Hopefully, as many people can hear that as possible, because Gibbs, after all, is the consultant that is known to have to have left a vital monitor off. And it was Lucy that found it and that it was off and turned it back on. You know.
Well, he apologised to her in the comments.
Yeah, he had to, didn't he?
Then he retracted it. I think he retracted the apology later. He said,
"Oh, did he? Right."
Well, I can't. I think he did, but not only that, but the Nicholas Johnson, Casey, he accused Lucy of taking advantage of their situation, didn't he? When he'd forgotten to turn it back on.
But there was another nurse there that backed up Lucy's story, and then Gibbs, as far as I remember, unless there was a future thing, he was put in a position where the best he could say was, well, if that's what we're told what happened, then that's what happened, because luckily there was another nurse there that backed up Lucy's story, that Gibbs had actually apologized to the other nurse once she'd come out of it.
Yes, that's all.
I think that's it.
Yeah, but again,
but that thing about the
little thing in the case, you know.
No, but that's a really big thing. That's a really big thing to visually see. I think, you know, it is dramatic. It's a dramatic moment.
It was.
Do you think there's an outside chance that he flips from the pro guilt side, because he's the one that has the least? He was the least proactive in pursuing her, and he's now out the system, obviously.
So you think about somebody, you know, going rogue. I think he could be the one on the side. Yeah. I meant to chat to Matt McDonald about him, actually. Yeah.
Somebody says here, guys, harmonise your volume levels. I had no idea how to do that. Am I speaking too loudly or something? Or, I don't know. But I don't know. I don't know how you do that. I'll have to try to find that out. But so Operation Merlin Falcon says the general public basically had no idea about the conditions of the COCH N and U. That's absolutely they didn't. And I mean, even today, you get comments on like national newspaper articles, and they keep saying, oh, there were no deaths after Lucy Letby left, because it hasn't permeated the thing about the downgrading and what that means. It takes a bit of work to do that, but if you haven't done that work, then you're still in that mindset. So
And
how do you get through to people who don't want to? Am I shouting? Am I shouting a bit loud, or am I okay? Yeah, but please tell me if I am. I don't know how it come across, but
whoever said it, could they say who's?
Harmonise. We've got to harmonise. We've got 3-part harmonies.
I'm not Simone, by the way. I'm actually Tony. I think before it had a. Does it have our names under?
Well, yeah, it says Simone, bookbinder, but you're Tony and Matt and Mark. I originally was Dewey at the beginning for some having a laugh, but I'm not really Dewey, thank God. But yeah, so God, I think I hope we're not here this time next year, because I hope that within this year that Lucy Letby is exonerated, and we wouldn't need to be here next year. Yeah,
definitely. For good.
Hope for that.
Yeah, and I feel good things are going to happen soon. Do you? Yeah.
I think so. And as Matt's saying earlier, this is it's a lot of it, isn't there? This stuff that's come out, and I think it's going to be jumped on. And the kind of engine of the media, because they're relying, it's all about money for them as well, and they can smell this massive story. What is the story now for them in their worldview? Is about the wrongly convicted nurse. That's what the story is for them.
Yeah, it's another Birmingham 6 thing, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
and they're going to run. I mean, I think the Sun is saying they're going to set up a group thing, aren't they? Where a campaign for her. So that's tomorrow. So once people start signing up for that, I mean, I forget who was. It was not Matt, the guy who did the singing song. I've forgotten his name. Sorry.
Oh, Dan. Sorry, yeah, Dan. Yeah.
Dan was saying that he wants to do another kind of get together, and I was just wondering whether it might be better to wait for the Sun, because they probably organise something huge.
That's true, actually. Now, because it's turned so that, and they're a fickle kind of beast, the media, but it's and obviously that there's been some really excellent work done by people like Sarah Napton, Felicity Lawrence, Anouk Curry, and some other people all the way along, and Peter Hitchens, as I think you mentioned as well, Matt, and so there's been some really good people along the way.
Yeah,
but it's getting out into these other areas where it hadn't been before now.
Yeah, I never realised that Anouk Curry she's the ITV lady, isn't she?
Yeah, she's fantastic, and that ITV one I think it's up for an award as well, actually. I think coming up in February.
When we went to the Court of Appeal once to see, and she was there. I keep seeing her everywhere. She's always there in the background, gathering info.
The media are going to get to somebody sooner or later with that level of publicity, whether it's a victim's family member, or whether it's like I said, somebody that's left the police service or something like that, and that will generate a whole new wave of publicity. I know I said it a while ago, but it will be the newspapers that will get to them.
I think you're right. And Mark McDonald said very early on, he said, you've got to change the narrative. That's in a situation like this, like as with the Birmingham 6, Guildford 4, and that narrative is, it's definitely tipped over 50% now, I think, into the opposite of what it was in the beginning, when it was a real, almost total monstering of Lucy Letby, with very few exceptions, So should we wrap up now? Sort of Reason says, why didn't the defence call a pathologist's opinion? That's another great question. I'm getting all the grief because I give evidence in court. Oh, sorry, this is what is in quotes. This is what Dewey Evans.
He's replied to the Sun's article.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's his quote from Dewey Evans.
Bedtime reading.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, thank you, Tony, and thank you, Matt, and thank you, Simone. And thank you everybody in the chat and everybody who's commented. and everyone who appeared before on the
Thank
screen.
you for hosting. It's really useful.
Always been fantastic, and really appreciate you. You both came
We're loving
on.
the sound. We're absolutely loving the sound.
Yeah, I put it through the AI thing, so I didn't. It's a new version of Paul Hughes'.
Voice sounds good on the last one.
Yeah, it's not. It's kind of like I thought I'd just see what it would do. It takes seconds to do it. It's like it's a bit frightening, really. You know, you put the lyrics in and it comes up with that. I asked it to do like an English accent, and it doesn't really do it, but because it's obviously American.
That's not Mark singing that this time.
No, it's a professional job, but it's actually not even human, so it's whatever it is, which kind of fits. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it fits. We'll leave it there. Well, thank you very much, everybody, and good night, and Godspeed. Sleep well. Okay.
Cheers, guys.
And cheers, Matt. Cheers, and Simone. Bye.
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 Bye, everybody. Bye.
Good night.
Ending the stream any minute now. Any second now. Oh, I don't know how to do it. Oh, it should be coming now.